Hi, everybody. Welcome here today. We'd like to welcome you all here. It's good to have you. This is the beginning of our it's the 11th today, the 11th work session. Good night. July's within a few days of being half over.
Getting close.
We are. It's been hot. How about up where you're at, Gage?
It's hot up there, not as hot as down here.
It is hot, isn't it?
You know,
Well, anyway, we welcome
But
you all
still
here. Well, first item on the agenda today is our discussion of the Center of Excellence budget. Jill DeVito, Scott Park, Melissa Freeman. Melissa, Scott, who's going to run this show?
Start. So commissioners, if you remember, just a quick history lesson, a long time ago, the Center of Excellence was part of the Weber Morgan Health Department before
That's
the
right.
local agreement. And at the, while it was under the Weber Morgan Health Department, Weber County gave a 3-year grant, $150,000 a year for 3 years on a fiscal calendar, so July to June. And we were funding that for the housing and homelessness services that we provided. Well, history happens and the Center of Excellence moves over and becomes part of Weber County. Since we are already halfway through that process, we continue to treat it as though it were a grant. Well, Weber County can't really give a grant to itself, but we continue to account for it that way just to keep all the accounting clean. Well, June 30th comes this last year and that grant has expired, the grant to ourselves. We didn't spend all of the money, but what I would like to do is actually just let that grant go and be done with, because it's hard to account for a grant to ourselves. It's hard to explain it to other people why we're issuing grants to ourselves.
Makes sense.
And so I want to just let that grant go. But the question is what do we do with the excess money that wasn't spent in that grant? Now, this was all funded one time. It was not ongoing funds. And so,
You're just going to sweep that, are you?
yes. So yes, it's going to
I
be
see
swept from the
her
general fund.
kind of go, oh.
You know what we do at the legislature? We look for those little pockets.
That's right.
We take them out of those accounts, put them where we
That's
want,
right. Just
So-
sweep, it.
right?
That's
Sweep.
right.
So if you guys don't do anything, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sweep that money into the general fund. There will be no more money in the housing and homelessness grant. That's not really a grant.
How
but-
much
but a
is,
grant.
how much in that account?
So there's 200, so it was $150,000 a year, $450,000 total. We'd spent 168,000, so there'd be 280,000 left, but it's all one-time money. So that all sweeps back into the general fund. Now, the question is, do you want to give Melissa under the Center of Excellence now, not under this grant, but under the Center of Excellence, a little bit of one-time money to let her get through the rest of this year as though it had been funded ongoing, and then Melissa can come during the budget cycle and make her pitch to have that money be an ongoing source of funding. Because she's going to want to ask for that to be an ongoing, so fund ongoing position.
Make a pitch, turn it from one-time money into ongoing.
Yes.
Boy, that's gonna be quite, she's gonna have to go over to the Netherlands and learn how to talk like a Dutch uncle.
So that would be,
I didn't quite get that.
that would be my recommendation, commissioners, because we're so close to the budget cycle. It doesn't seem appropriate to have, because we have challenges that we're going to face this year with
Yeah,
ongoing funding. And I want you commissioners to be able to consider an ongoing funding request in the context of all the ongoing requests of the county.
that's how I see it.
But we have plenty of one-time money that funding this. And what I would say is let's fund it as though we're just half a year, so 75,000. So I'm going to sweep 280,000 in. I'm going to move 75,000 back one time into the Center of Excellence. And then let's Melissa come during the budget cycle and make her case for ongoing funding for housing and homelessness.
Since this was a housing grant to start out with, to go to her, and she's been fighting off and on this to get the employees to keep them, couldn't we just leave that money in with her, with Center of Excellence?
I mean, we could move all $280,000 into the Center of Excellence, but since she's part of the general fund at the end of the year, it all sweeps into the general fund balance anyway. So it's not like it does anything. If that makes sense. It's just kind of a shell.
Right.
Yeah, but we can still leave it in at the end of the year.
When you say leave it in there, where is it? Because it's part of the general fund, so it's in the general fund balance. She doesn't have a fund balance. It's not like the library that has its own fund balance.
It's all in the
or-
same account.
Yeah, it's all in the same account anyway.
Oh.
It's not gonna make it.
I mean, if you want me to designate it and say, hey, remind us next year when you do this, that we want them to have what they didn't spend, I can remind you, but the savings account for it is the general fund unrestricted.
So your proposal's sweep 75,000?
Well, my proposal is to sweep all of it, it's 280,000.
All of it.
And then give
back
her
75.
75,000, which would be enough to fund. the
Into her
rest of-
budget,
Into her operating budget this year.
yeah.
And that'd be enough for her to continue to operate at the same
Do
level
you
she
need
was operating.
75?
Yeah, I probably don't need all of that, but I think that number is good to make sure that we have enough to get us all the way through December and then hit January. And then we'll be on a January to December cycle versus this July to June. That's typically a grant cycle for us, but I'd rather get on the budgeting cycle for the county.
Yeah.
And the reason why there's a lot of money left in there is because we've been really fiscally responsible. So it's not that we don't need it or that the homeless services coordinator is not a super important position. We've just been really conservative and tried to not spend whatever we didn't need to not spend.
I like that.
Well, the only thing I have here is she's fought so hard for her money over the period of time. I hate to see you sweep it all.
Well, this is.
And
county
I
funding.
understand.
Yeah.
I understand. It's just I like her to have a little cush here. You're a hard taskmaster sometimes, Scott.
Well, I hear what you're saying. It's not like it has a fund balance. So if you want, I can designate whatever money you want as, to make a note to myself to add it to her budget next year. But just the way the mechanics of this actually works, all the general fund
Yeah.
accounts sweep into that one account at the end of the year. I mean, it's an automatic.
It's gonna
transfer.
come down to the presentation we see when it comes down to budget. I
Yeah,
mean, that's really what it's about.
I can add a note to it, say, hey,
So,
commissioners, you
The
want.
75 gets you by to the end of the year. That's what's important.
Right.
So,
That's what they need, an actual budget change in the system to let
Yeah.
them spend the money.
to me, then you come budget session, you come in and make your.
You know, I
pitch as far
didn't
as what you need.
realize that your funding had come out of a grant from us. This is the
Yeah.
first time I've actually heard that.
Well, just for the housing and homelessness.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
because it was a.
I
grant
would
with
have
the health
encouraged you to spend more if I'd realized that.
department.
Oh,
I hear
well.
you.
We've done really good, though.
You've done really good.
Yeah, no, she's done really good. Where it goes right there. Melissa's done a great job. All right, well, what do you think? I don't have any issues with that.
No,
Do either of you?
no, I think it's good.
Are you?
Okay, so I'm gonna let this grant die. I'm gonna bring you a budget change for $75,000 to the Center of Excellence one time. And then Melissa's gonna come back in the budget cycle and ask for ongoing funding for this
You bet.
position.
Great.
I like it.
Now, you happen to be on the front end of this before we have lunch. So we buy lunch for you and you're welcome to have some before you leave.
Thank you. That's awesome.
In fact, we're not kicking you out. You can sit here and eat for 15 minutes if you want.
Oh, you got 15
Yeah,
minutes.
because we got 15 minutes. In fact, while you're doing this, when we're loading up, you could be telling us. You can give us an update on Melissa's grant from the state and where it's going. And it's $1 million a year for 3 years and how it's working. Now, it's actually just starting right now,
Yeah, in fact,
11 days ago.
I haven't seen the approved budget come back yet, right? We've been waiting for that any day now for the last few days.
Yeah, it's been back and forth. Where's the period? Where's the comma? Where's the semicolon? Can't put, etc. It's really, really detailed. It's TANF.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
Yeah,
that's-
we
We've been going back
understand
and
that.
forth,
You and I
so-
were involved in
Yeah,
it
there's a
for
lot of-
we're hoping though,
careers.
next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow, bringing you guys a scope of work and a contract from DWS. So
I actually thought I'd see it this morning, but it wasn't in my inbox.
we're hopeful that we'll be seeing you guys next week.
So what's your intentions?
So we have
Let them
basically,
know, 'cause I won't be here. So
okay. What do you mean? Just
what's
like
your
long-term?
intention to do with the money?
So we'll be tripling our capacity. So we served about 300 participants. In this contract right now, it's drafted at 500 participants over the 3 years. We'll probably exceed that, but I wanted a number that we could actually reach. We have increased every single one of what DWS defined as the indicators of child health and well-being. So we've increased those. So all of our outcomes are showing that for all the children that are in intergenerational poverty, they have parents who have substance abuse problems, single moms coming out of domestic violence. So what we're doing is really working with them in the crisis mode. So we get a lot of people actually living in their cars, for example, with their children. So we're serving them, helping them get housed in that crisis stuff, but then we're helping them get jobs. So we're working with them beyond so that we could be working with the children to mitigate all of the risks that they're facing that are called adverse childhood experiences. So when you get 4 out of 10 adverse childhood experiences, you're at risk for everything bad in the future. No job, no graduation from high school, right? It's your future
Only
workforce.
4.
4 out
Only
of 10.
4, yeah, and that's all scientifically based,
That's crazy.
including your lifespan. So,
But that, this is all intergenerational poverty though.
and we don't serve anyone that's just in poverty, and we don't serve the parents, we serve the children. So that's the full prevention. So you guys have probably talked prevention in the opioid dollars and what's allowable uses. This is as early as it gets to work with the children that have all of these adverse childhood experiences.
So Gage, this is all intergenerational poverty. It really doesn't go to any of the opioids,
Yeah,
just because that'll be coming up here in the future.
right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
get that.
All right,
No, makes sense.
And we'll be working with the health department for the opioid monies. We'll be combining our ask within it because that's all social determinants of health. So we'll be connected to them, and
So are you working with the health department? Because our finance meeting last Friday, I asked them, they said they didn't have any direct request yet.
yeah, I met with Brian Cowan this morning,
Okay.
and we're gonna merge our requests and come
And
together to you
I
guys.
told him, make sure you work with Weaver Human Services. Let's not reinvent something that they've made, what, 5 or 6 proposals to us, different
Right.
programs.
Yeah,
And we basically gave them the green light, so.
yeah,
no, I agree. We don't want to be stepping over each other. We've got to be unified the way this has.
yeah. And Kevin sent what he sent to you guys, but we can maybe talk about that at our administrative meeting.
Yeah.
Is
I'm
that
okay
okay
with
with you,
that.
Wednesday? Okay.
Just again.
So Scott, you got any questions about this?
You have any questions on it?
The right direction she's heading and
No, I understand the
money,
direction
as
said,
you see,
you know, I'm
because
more,
she's gonna blow up her department, right? She's gonna be twice as big by
yeah, but
this
she's
time, at
grant
the end of the
funded.
year. Right.
So, I mean, we're working hard to track to make sure that all the positions are grant funded. You know, the ultimate goal, as I understood it, when it was initially created, was to reduce the draw of the general fund dollars and have the Center of Excellence support itself more and more with grants.
Right.
So that's the direction that, you know, we're hoping it moves towards, but the county is still subsidizing the Center of Excellence operations. And will continue to do so for a little while at least.
Well, so you know, Kevin Eastman's come to us and he's asked to get out of this deal.
Mhm.
And I told him I wouldn't let him out, so he's not real happy with me. But at the end of the year, when the deal's up, and that's why I wouldn't, we're really close. So it's like, look, why make a big change with just 6 or 8 months to go? So I didn't want to do that.
What deal does he want out of?
The
third?
Yeah, the third, exactly.
Okay.
So anyway, I told him, I said, look, just keep it the way it is. At the
Yeah.
end of the year, we'll sit down and renegotiate this, and then it'll be somebody new, won't be me.
Yeah, well, then we can take a look at, the
Right,
budget. That's the time to deal with that.
right. That's the way I figured this
Yeah.
whole thing.
Yeah, let's-
I would just like to point out that yes, when we came in, the scope of work was to be fully funded, but that we only had the integrated community action now. We only had the IGP work. A couple of months in, then we were asked to take on homelessness.
Right.
We're now taking on, Commissioner Frower, the criminal justice strategic planning. So it's not that we're just asking for more money. We're fully funded in the IGP work now at $1 million a year for the next 3 years. And so the other funding and the information will be coming back to you guys for the ongoing dollars during the budget cycle will be for this increased scope of work that
Yeah.
we've been asked to take on.
And you can, when you present your budget request, you can go through as far as what those scopes are and how your,
Yeah,
pockets of money to come out. Yeah,
Right.
I like it.
Good. All right.
And when I say
Good.
that, I mean the administrative, like the general
Yeah,
administrative
okay.
cost. So yeah, if you're gonna fund the housing and homelessness, that's fine, that's county funded, but I consider that a funded project.
Right, no, that totally makes sense. I just wanted to make sure that,
Right.
to be clear.
Good.
So human services wants to get out of it, they're what, 45-ish thousand dollars a year.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're not a lot, but that,
we give
Kevin?
them 2 million a year, 2.5 million.
How
a
come
year.
they want to get out? They
He-
benefit from this as much as anybody.
Yeah, what he did is, he took that funding and then he paired it with other funding that he had from the state to create an additional prevention position, an assistant director.
that's exactly what he did.
So it just increases his capacity in the prevention world.
Got it.
So then would we continue to get money from the health department at the same third, like keep their contribution the same at 40-ish thousand, or, I mean, we'd want to look at that.
Is health department in a state?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, the health department, when they had COVID, Melissa helped them a ton for about 3 months.
I know she did.
You know, when they were in the middle of this, and needed help, she just dropped everything and went over there.
And they needed help.
They did. But then it wasn't long after that, she dropped that and ran over to the Lantern House, because they were struggling. And they had outbreaks and she did all that. Well, I don't know, Kevin, I wonder if he felt a little, what? A little like a stepchild, a little bit there for a while, that he wasn't getting all the attention.
Oh.
But you know, she was totally consumed for 6 months
Yeah.
with those other 2 projects.
Yeah.
And so it's just life, it happens. Both the others, they couldn't have been happier the way things turned out. But it just didn't work quite out for Kevin, but I don't know.
Oh, well.
The meetings we had, I could see Kevin kind of going this way. And I don't know. I don't want to disparage Kevin in any way.
I get it.
It's been a good deal, but I don't know. He just asked us the other day to get out.
Yeah, well, I just think that we've always, when we came in, we weren't always supposed to be under the health department. It just made sense when we were very first forming to be under the health department. And then, you know, Brian Binion and Kevin always had the goal of us leaving the health department and coming under the county. And so I think it's just evolving into what's needed.
Yeah.
And, you know, Commissioner Frower, like the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, I mean, that's something that's coming down the pike. It's gonna be
Yeah.
legislated that counties do it.
Mhm.
And it's great, right?
It
That
is.
it falls, we have the COE and the work that we do, it falls right under our umbrella.
Keep us
So,
right in the forefront of that stuff. It's good.
It is. I'm not complaining about any of it, Gabe.
No,
It's just
I'm not either.
evolving.
and we're in the tail end of our 4th outbreak, actually, at Lantern House. So, you know, COVID hasn't gone away for homelessness at all. I mean, it's still alive and well, and we cleared out, we did helped Eden up past your house, Commissioner. Gosh, I can't remember.
Liberty?
The campground.
Oh,
Anyway, we
Weaver
helped,
Memorial.
yeah, we helped 15 individuals get access to the
Oh.
other nonprofits to get, they were illegally
Gage.
camped.
That trailer park, the Elks.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
Up
we
Southport?
helped, yeah,
Uh-huh.
we helped 15 residents actually get storage for their campers and then get to Lantern House, and we helped them successfully either rehouse or access shelter and funds.
So they
So
were living there full time?
Yeah.
How'd they do that in the winter?
They did.
Oh, my gosh.
The ward took care of a lot of stuff up there
Wow.
too.
When that guy
Church did.
come in here though, we knew they were living there full time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're supposed to.
Oh, they weren't supposed to. You're right.
Wow.
but I guess my point is homelessness has grown, like with COVID, it's obviously increased a great deal. So our services have also matched that, right? With encampment dispersals and
Right.
environmental health is really
Yeah.
big. So
Yeah. Good.
All right.
Is that place cleaned up now?
it's not
I-
quite, but it's getting there.
I rode by there the other day and it looked like there were still some structures in there, but
Of course, this health department, they're the ones
yeah.
putting the
Yeah.
strong arm on them.
Some of the individuals are out, but their equipment and their, so outcap, actually the CARES dollar that paid for rental assistance
Uh-huh.
also would pay for storage. So a lot of the campers we actually got into storage and paid for through ALCAP. So,
Were they worth saving, those campers?
um,
I mean,
Not a fair,
half
that's
of
a
those are
fair,
junk.
that's a fair question.
No,
probably
fair question.
not, but to them, probably because it's
All
all
they
they
had.
own. So, I mean, it is their
That's
own
true.
bait
That's all you got.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Hopefully, we didn't just transfer the problem. Because a lot of times with those storage, what they do is they'll move those campers into those storage. People live out of storage sheds.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we've seen it.
well, in order to get the dollar for the storage was just for their trailers alone. And
Oh,
then
I
the
know.
Individuals got case management through Leonard House. So we connected them full circle.
All right,
Good.
you're out of time. Thank you. Appreciate you
you.
doing that. Like I say, you're welcome to something to eat.
Thanks, guys. Yeah,
Thank you.
get some lunch.
All right. West Weaver General Plan.
Here we go.
Here we go. Charlie, Rick, John, Scott, Steve, Ashley, Gary Myers. Good night. We got everybody in town. Well, I'm gonna get some more. Everybody but Scott Park.
I'm out, yep. We got a Scott there, but it's not Clark.
Yeah, when he,
You're welcome to sit in here and listen to this if you want.
yeah, I'm actually out there Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week, so I'm working hard these 2 days to get everything done.
All right.
So,
Hey, Rod,
thanks.
appreciate you. No, you're doing great. Lasagna today. Oh, heavy. There's no light lunch today. Lunch champions.
Really good.
Charlie wants you to have these. I just got these off your desk.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
you too. Oh, thanks.
I like those corners because it burns well.
That's the best one.
That's the best kind, isn't it?
Well, Gary, I drove over the divide the other day.
And
Nice.
that's that road, best shape it's ever been in probably 100 years, huh?
As long as I've been around, by far.
It's good.
I've actually
But
got,
now I'm getting complaints it's too good.
are you really?
Yeah, yeah. You guys improve the road, all you're gonna do is encourage people to come into the valley.
Never happy, are they?
understand.
No, no.
Well, it's a beautiful place up there in case you've never been
It's
there.
beautiful.
I'm glad all these
Say
people
morning.
from California remind me of that. It's only been 70, close, not quite, close to 70 years since I've been there.
Not quite.
Not quite, no, no. I don't wanna date myself like Commissioner Jenkins.
Hey, I threw your campaign signs away. I didn't figure he was gonna run one more time.
No, I just need a few to.
Well, he needs them for November.
Gotta put up a couple of.
John
those.
Thompson.
Oh, that's, well, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't think about John. I cleaned up the other day and I took them down and threw them away.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. I'm sorry.
Nice.
Didn't think about that.
Well, I can always borrow some from Chan.
Congratulations, by the way, Commissioner. I've seen you
Thank you.
since then.
All right, Charlie, go ahead.
We'll pull this up on Zoom. Afternoon, how's it going?
Great to see you.
Steve?
Nice to see you guys.
Oh, that Neil Berube thinks you're pretty good, I'll say.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, he thinks. Man,
What are we talking
That's a
about
good
here?
thing.
Western Weaver General Plan.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah. So,
y'all come back now, you hear?
why don't you shut that door, Joe? You two are welcome to have something to eat. Take care.
We've got a couple more coming up, I think. Rick will be here. Oh, Gary's here. Scott,
I beat you, Charlie.
we did. Anybody have the mouse for
Mm-hmm.
the screen?
I'm always a little on guard with Charlie.
Uh-oh.
How come? He's
Well,
scary.
you know, Charlie,
Does he scare you a little?
Kind of goes rogue every now and again.
It's the beard.
Fear the beard.
You're the beard. Seven, six, okay. Okay. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I know it's only been a couple of days since I handed the document out to you guys. I just want to start off just wondering if you guys have any questions for me before we jump into any parts of the document. Anything open-ended as you were reading it that stuck out to you that you wanted to address?
None for me. No,
I'll be honest with you, I just started it and then started again and started again. Never did get into it real heavily because every time I started, I got interrupted.
My experience when you get to that, start with a new section or a new paragraph every
Yeah.
time. I've done that before. Okay. That work. The meetings that we've been having with the planning commission, the joint work sessions we've been having with you guys, I want to make sure you guys are clear on what the strategy has been so far in those meetings. We've been taking chunks of a plan, 1 to 2 chapters at a time, and diving into the details. And that's why in our last work session, we went as far as the details, as far as the weeds as we did.
Well, you get down the weeds far though, Charlie, I'm not sure we care.
Yeah, but I totally understand.
You know
that,
what I
right?
mean?
And-
When it gets down to the exact curve and the width of the part, the mow strip and.
Yep. Well, we'll address all of those details over time. And so the general plan itself, you're right, I tend to be fairly general. And so when we're looking at this today, I'm not intending to get into the details unless you guys want to get into the details. I want to give you a good overview of what we're looking at as you dive into the document and you run through it, how to navigate the document, and then we'll go over to some of the principles of what it says. Some of the easiest ways perhaps to even look at the document is to flip to the back of each of the chapters and just go over the goals, see if you agree with the goals. Once you've gone over the goals, go over the principles. And then after that, we've got implementation strategies or action items that can come out of those principles, but that's not exhaustive. So as long as the principles speak to the policy directives that you guys are interested in executing here, this is generally speaking, I think what the general plan or what the planning commission will recommend to you. And so I think if you just read it that way, if you've got any new ideas on policies or on principles or on goals that are missing, let me know. If you've got some ideas on action items, I'm more than happy to write them down as well, but this is not limited. We don't have to
Right.
only do the action.
All right, start down through it.
Yeah.
Get going. I see you got some commissioners on.
huh?
Well, Brent.
Oh, Brand Planning Commission. Okay. I gotta go get a pen.
Stalling because I can't.
No.
Try that one in the back.
No.
Ooh,
What's
Better
different
about that.
about that one?
the sausagey taste.
Oh, does it really?
Don Stefano.
There's salad over there. So, by closing some applications to improve performance, but only have 2 applications open. Bless you.
So we're waiting for you, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's all right. I just want to make sure you weren't expecting me to jump in here and be doing something. So Gage, this meeting that Harvey's set up with Upper Valley, you see, that's kind of morphed into a great big meeting now.
I didn't see that, but.
Well, yeah, everybody's, if you look at the list, everybody's invited to that. And then we got an email from Miranda based on it, where she's expecting. Anyway, I was turned in a lot more than you started with.
I just want to make sure everybody's from the same buffet.
Well, as long as we've got the 4 major players, that's the ones I'm concerned with.
Well,
They're
wasn't
there.
at first, there wasn't. There was only Wolf Creek.
Yeah.
So I said, no, we need in Eden. But the other, who's that? So Sean, you were involved. Sean's the one that got the call from Miranda. So it really wasn't me. I just kind of reacted. Okay,
So we'll
but
have,
it's okay. I support Sean in this.
we'll have basically everybody that was in that first meeting coming up.
Except Weaver Basin Waters.
I had, Scott Paxton's been invited.
Good.
Okay, well, that's, when is that meeting?
It's,
27th, right?
yes.
Sorry?
Well,
The.
So what's the goal for that meeting?
so one of the 27th
Well,
is the one that Scott set up, Paxton set up.
Isn't that the one we're talking about?
No,
So we're talking about a different one.
so that's coming up on, actually, it might be,
More the merrier.
it's on the 19th.
Yeah,
Oh, the
that's more
19th.
like it, yeah.
So
It's
that's
next week.
next week.
A
Next
week
week,
from
next-
today.
next
or
Tuesday.
tomorrow.
So
Okay,
basically, John and Miranda wanted to come in and provide the clarification that you've asked for
right.
on this agreement. But when I talked to Commissioner Harvey, he said, I'd like everybody to be here, so
And I'm okay
everybody's
with
on the
that.
same page.
I mean, what I'd hope to accomplish, Commissioner Harvey, on that is come out with a clear understanding, some type of MOU, so that certain people stay on the reservation and don't go out after the fact, after we may commit certain ARPA funds. So I just want to make sure that we have an understanding with everybody, and everybody in the room. It's going to be hard for somebody to leave the reservation.
That makes good sense.
For those of you who have never sang in the choir, there are times when you might be singing bass or tenor that you just don't sing, but you're still in the choir. The choir keeps going on, but you're going to come back in a little while. So we're all singing out of the same hymn book. You may have a rest part, but we all still need to be there. Just, we're not gonna, oh, sorry, you can't come to choir practice because there's no tenor or bass part on this one now.
Exactly.
It's a bunch of crap.
So I want to make sure that when we're done with this, that the scope of what we want them to do is clear.
That's,
Yep.
And the reason I say that is because when we launch this, it'll be a district on its own, and it'll grow and consume, and we're done with it at that point. In fact, we will have no oversight.
Yeah.
Because the body of politic will be Wolf Creek. The Wolf Creek, what we call them, Sean, number one?
Water and sewer district. So they're creating a service area.
Right,
right. No, that's how I see it. But
right.
I
So
think
we won't have oversight over them like we do other agencies.
and I would hope that there's more public outreach up there when this thing launches, because as Rick knows, there's a number of people in the valley that are gonna look at this as the commissioners are promoting more growth in the valley when we shouldn't be promoting it.
Yeah, and we have the meeting set up, that they're setting up with the different studies on the 27th of July at Snowcrest Junior High. From 6 to 8.
So that's probably a good time for this group, whoever this district, whether it's Miranda or somebody else.
27th July?
Yes.
The
That's not a-
27th, we haven't got that on your calendars yet.
Yeah, I was just gonna
We've
say.
got to get that on there. But
Is
that's
this to talk about the sewer study and the water study?
the sewer and the water study,
Correct.
both of those. And
Right,
It's
good.
their
So-
public presentation of that study.
yeah,
Who's gonna do that?
Weaver Basin is organizing it. So,
Yeah.
Rick.
Weaver, so it's Weaver Basin meeting?
yeah, yeah, they're in charge
Well,
of
And
it.
then who's doing the sewer, Jerry?
It'd be Jared.
Yeah, they're
Good.
working together on that. And I was gonna chat with you in the morning about that, Commissioner Jenkins, but while we're talking about it right now, the 19th meeting, there won't be any decisions made in the 19th meeting. It's just a work session or a meeting that you're having, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's now, while you're here and talking about that, what's tomorrow, the 12th?
Nothing.
Nothing. Are
Do you
you,
have something, Mark?
Yeah, it says general plan, public
No,
hearing.
that's on the 19th.
so that's been moved to the 19th.
That, it's on my calendar, it says the 12th.
They should have taken that off and put it on the 19th.
So that's the 19th,
Yes.
but that's for. the
Well,
local-
girls, if you're
that's
out
for
there
Western
hearing
Region.
this,
That's for the
Weaver
planning
County,
commission. Yes, yeah.
general plan, it's got the three of us on there.
So that's the 19th.
That's the 19th.
It's on the 12th.
I'll talk to them.
Should be
as
the
I walk out to
19th.
make sure that- Yeah, yeah, that's the planning commission. So
That's
be
planning
be there if you
commission,
want to. I don't know if it's necessary.
That's
All right, I
public
hear it.
hearing. I'm not sure we need to be there.
Yeah,
Okay. I wanted to be the ones that are, I need to be the ones that are important.
yeah, probably the one that's important for you guys is when we have it on your calendar agenda. But if you want to be there for this one, you can, but
Yeah, this will be up at the junior high.
no, the 19th will be here. That's for the Western Weaver General Plan.
Oh, the Western.
That's-
Weaver.
But the Snowcrest.
That's a public hearing.
Yes, that's for the Western Weaver General Plan
Right.
we're talking about right
Yeah.
now. But the one at Snowcrest Junior High is gonna be the studies up in the Ogden Valley.
Water and sewer.
Yeah.
So on the hearing you're gonna have on the 19th, are you gonna have a final version or are you going to, so that'll be the version that
The final draft.
you'll bring to us for approval?
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
Okay.
It's not-
Is there just one meeting or is there more?
Well, so we started off with one just for the hearing. Now they could pass it in that one meeting, or they could table it and
Okay.
pass it in another.
So on the 19th, you would fully expect that they'll pass this.
I kind of think so, but maybe they'll push it a little bit.
Yeah, they may have some changes or tweaks.
That's coming down the road, Scott.
I know, we knew it would.
Yeah.
That time.
Yeah, my desire is to get it on your guys'
So do I need to be
agenda
there a
the
week
first week of
on
August
Tuesday?
if possible.
Wow, okay, big.
Good.
That's the
Okay.
planning commission.
It
public.
really
okay
depends
with
on what
that.
happens on the 19th.
Good.
Yeah, I'd almost recommend that you're not there on the 19th meeting.
I don't know how big of a
The
crowd
what?
we're gonna have.
That you're not there on the 19th, just let the planning commission decide. And
Yeah,
then-
I think, the planning commission are the ones that have put their heart and soul into this. They need to make that decision. And then we'll see where that goes.
And they've received input from you in work sessions, so.
Right.
I don't want to steal their thunder. I don't want them to think there's any pressure on going one direction or the other.
that'd be wise.
I'm ready. Sorry for the hiccups.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so we've got 9 chapters in the document here. The document's about 100 or so pages in its Word format. Now, the Word format includes some larger graphics that once we get into the final design project, it'll probably be a little more condensed. But as we continue on over the next week or two with the planning commission, there may be more added to it. So we've got an introduction, just kind of explains what the plan is and how the plan was put together. I didn't put any of the public involvement in the plan. My goal in creating a plan is to create something that's actionable. And if you've got way too much in it, you lose the actionable side of it. And so the scholarly side of it, we've got a plan study or an appendix that's going to be attached to it. That one might be hundreds of pages long. because it's all the stuff that we pulled references from and, you know, has some ideas of other ways that we can execute things. This here is just, all right, what does the plan say to do? Should we rezone the property or not? Should we ask for, you know, these kind of improvements or not? That's the intention of the plan itself.
Yeah.
So we got introduction, we've got community character, the community character chapter. Everywhere else in the plan, all the other chapters do talk about doing things to support the community's character. And that is all defined and identified in chapter 2. So essentially, that is just a large definitions chapter of what the community character is, starting with a vision, explaining existing conditions, and then moving into the future, what future conditions are desired to be. Okay, land use section, that one, every plan has to have a land use section. That's the meat and potatoes. That's what the future land uses should be. That's what the future, essentially the future zoning should be, and how the zoning rules should evolve over time. So maybe the plan contemplates certain types of development that we don't have rules for. Well, then we've got to make rules that speak to the intention of the plan. That's the map that we've all looked at with the big colors on it, the bright colors on it. Next one is chapter 4, demographics and housing. The version you have in your packet here is a evolved version from the 2018 moderate income housing plan that we put together and adopted at that time. The version that's going to come out in this document, in the next version of the plan, is one that Wasatch Front Regional Council predominantly put together based on the housing study that they've been doing for the last year. So it's nice that those two, this and those, and the housing study, they're coming together and crossing so that we could actually get the updated stuff into this plan. A lot of the housing figures, as Commissioner Jenkins knows from the housing panel, is based on old numbers, 2019 numbers, both in salaries as well as housing values. And so figuring out what's happened over the last 3 years is a bit of a challenge. We've just been trying to provide multipliers to figure out what it is that we're dealing with today, because the census is no help because of the pandemic.
You know, Charlie, on that, I think you're gonna have to take the CPI for our area. And just,
CPI.
yeah, consumer price index.
Oh,
So,
right.
you know, you can say basically, what's inflation been on property and
Yes.
what's wages been, and just
Exactly.
apply it and take a best guess.
So that is exactly what we've done. We took the 2019 data, we applied a ratio, yeah, we applied a multiplier to it to get us to what we are today, best guess.
Right.
2022, the census is putting together their estimates for 2022, and they should be available for the American Community Survey sometime next year, the year after. So we'll be able to, it's written in a way where we can plug and play regardless of what the numbers are, and
Right.
just rewrite based on new numbers if we need to.
All right.
Okay, the next section is transportation. I mean, obviously, transportation is going to be really important for land use. It's also important for housing. Something that's come out of this housing study that commissioners may have seen in the last WACOG meeting is the Wasatch Front Regional Council is putting together an incredible tool where you can get in, identify a particular geographic location, say, we want to do this type of housing. Where's the best location for that to go? Or we want to do this kind of housing in this location. Does it actually make sense to do it? It's a geographic referencing tool that you can use. And it's pretty efficient. It's
You know,
intended for elected officials to be able.
That meeting we had with UDOT the other night was a very informative meeting.
It was, wasn't it?
That was a dang good meeting.
Yeah.
We learned a ton in that.
Yeah, and I think I've got some ideas on ways to move forward, trying to get that freeway in a little sooner than their calculations would tell us it's needed.
Right.
Okay, next section is utilities and services. This one started out as a really simple section, and then the state code changed at this last legislative session and said we have to do water concurrency, meaning we need to be planning based off of the water that we have. That has thrown me for a loop, and that's one of the reasons why it took as long, well, as long as last week to try and get that chapter done. So I think we're in compliance with the state code. I do have a little blurb in there that says we want to review it again, maybe next year, the year after, just to make sure we're still in compliance. Parks and Recreation, I worked with the Taylor West Weaver Park District, or I'm not sure exactly what they call it, the Taylor Park District or West Weaver Park District on a lot of what's in there. They're working on a master plan right now. I didn't want whatever we have for Parks and Rec to conflict with what they have, but I also didn't want us to override anything that they hoped for or want. So they'll be doing a very detailed Parks and Recreation plan. We've got some goals and objectives here, but I just met with Roger Heslop last week and several members of the Parks Board. They want to do parks, they want to do trails, and they want to do general recreation. And so I think that's wonderful because we're trying to hold together trails in the Upper Valley and some in Western Weaver, and it's just be better if the Parks District was focused on that.
I agree. I like that.
And I was, really tickled that they're happy to move on with that.
Back on the parks, has Roger given a time frame?
On when they're gonna be done? No, I didn't ask though.
Okay.
But yeah, they just wanted to make sure what we have is along with what they want. So, and I think they're comfortable with what's in there. Number 8, environment and resource management. So you guys remember from a couple of years ago, state code change that said this is a new section that we need to have in our plan, which is a county resource management plan, primarily trying to help us coordinate with public agencies. And so we've got that, plus we put some environmental side of it, looking at wetlands and the lake shore and stuff like that in there. And then the very last one is the Weaver County Islands. And it should say islands and peninsulas. And we just have a very short chapter. I think it's less than a page long on that one, basically saying it's disproportionate for the county to try and provide services when island is located inside of a city. And so we recommend that all islands be absorbed by the adjacent cities. That's basically what it is. There's a directive in there that says when we're working on development agreements or anything like that for development in these islands or any new development in these islands should come with some kind of agreement that says that they will not protest when the city comes to knock on the door to annex it. We do.
Hold on. I want to have a discussion with you about this.
Okay.
I won't take everybody's time here, but I want to have a discussion about this with you.
Okay, perfect.
Because I personally have an issue with some of that.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah.
Well, this is the time we set aside to do it.
Well, okay, then fine. I'm gonna use my own personal, our neighborhood as a peninsula as part of this.
Mhm.
So I'm not gonna protest. The city can't provide me the same service that it does everybody else, but I'm gonna pay that same, I'm gonna pay that same city tax and I'm not gonna protest. That's a bunch of crap. I got several widows and old people in our neighborhood and we've taken it on the chin quite a bit. In fact, that group of neighborhood that was there paid into a Uinta Highlands Water District project and never got served over on the other side of the road. But now all of a sudden, we're not gonna that's a bunch of crap.
So it won't apply to anyone who is here right now. So say your neighbor.
I don't understand.
Let's say your neighbor with big property, larger acreage, they decide to develop. When they go through the development process, the county would say to them, we'll allow you to get more density in these areas, more than the 1 acre minimum that the code currently allows in that area. We'll let you get more density, but you gotta choose covenant with the county to not protest when the city's ready to take you over. It's not coming to swallow you up. It's coming to swallow
Okay,
them up.
listen, I don't mind going to the city, but I want the same services that everybody else in that city gets.
Absolutely.
Or all the other neighbors, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You can't expect us, I can see in other areas where they have those services given to them, but there's a lot of, this goes back to the same problem, and I've asked 100 times for the people of Uinta to make their own upper Uinta to make their own town up there,
Need to get some commercial services up there so they can.
I recognize it's very expensive for the county, and I'm not trying to get something more than anybody else, but the fact of the matter is I don't want to adversely affect a lot of my neighbors. Most of my neighbors are elderly.
Yeah.
When I say elderly, they make both of you look like spring chickens.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, no intention to apply this to people who currently are there, just those who buy property, like buy a lot in one of these new developments, essentially.
Okay.
Also, the Uinta Highlands is a unique case because they may be a peninsula, but they're really not. Because the unincorporated area is contiguous going up over the mountain into the Ogden Valley.
Yeah, so I wouldn't classify that as an island or.
We do have a strategy in here, so getting down into the weeds, there is a strategy in here that recommends that we work with the state legislature to try and refine the annexation and incorporation code to allow it to be defined as a peninsula. And it basically says, look, if it's an area that's sandwiched between a totally different planning area and a city, maybe that's also an island. But until the state code changes, it won't be considered that. So we wouldn't even be able to apply it to your neighbor. But we could to JDC Ranch. We could to some of those islands in North Ogden, for example.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, we've got two, I would say they're islands on the north side of the county on 4,000 North. They're islands because we have to go either through Box Elder to get to them or through other
Yeah,
cities.
I understand the difference, right? Yeah.
Okay,
Hold on. Have to go through Box Elder. Where are you talking about?
now there's
there by
not, there's
John.
not really a road through Box Elder to it, but yeah, as you drive down 4,000, you've got both Far West and Plain City. You've got little areas that are carved out that are unincorporated. Bayview Ranchettes is one of them, for example.
Yeah,
Bayview.
I know what you're talking about. Bayview Ranch, that's right, but they, not sure what even to say about that. I mean, they, the road, going right down the road, those counties, we can drive right down.
Right, sorry, so
So we don't really go in the box.
when you're looking at it,
The way you said that, though, you kind of had me.
sorry,
Okay, that's okay.
misspoke. It's just, it horseshoes
Sure.
around and then Box Elder's on
It
top.
does.
Okay. Well, that's this section. Got through that one. Any questions, just as I broached the subject that you guys want to address?
Oh,
Okay. Let's come back over here to the navigation page. Okay, community character. Under community character, we're essentially saying, we are a rural community, and that's both Uinta Highlands and Western Weaver. We're a rural community. We've developed like a rural community, and we'd like to try and continue to at least pay tribute to that idea as we move forward. Now, how do you do rural stuff in an area that's evolving to be suburbanized or even urbanized in some cases? Well, you look to the heritage, you look to the history of the area, you emphasize and accentuate what came before, and you celebrate those things. Nothing can stay rural forever, not so long as population continues to grow, right? And so that's essentially how we lay out community character. As we're looking at street cross sections, we actually pulled up that map.
you know, I don't agree with that. That, when you talk about community character and how it's laid out, that comes under vision. So you're saying this is the vision of the future. That isn't the vision of the future out there.
So what we're saying, the vision is saying, as we grow, because we will grow, we want to grow in a way that is organized. We accept and we acknowledge that growth is going to occur. As it happens,
So I mean, what that says, it says right there that it's defined by the low density residential development, undeveloped and undeveloped lands, underdeveloped lands.
that's true, and we could tweak that.
Or under the vision.
So the intention of saying that is to say, this is how we understood it to be. In the future, let's pay tribute to that idea. Doesn't mean that we are going to
Yeah,
say
but
that.
by you saying that to the uneducated person that reads that, they're saying, okay, they want this to be ultra low density or low density, underdeveloped. And that's not what we want out there.
Let's,
In fact, we're having application right now for lots that are fairly
that's,
dense.
Yep. So let's do, highlight that.
Yeah, am I wrong here? You two speak up.
You're doing fine.
Okay, I'll highlight that, put a note on that and make sure we soften that just a little bit so we're not saying.
I think you head the right direction with it. I basically we're saying this is what we have today, which is more low density.
It is,
It's not
but
high
under vision. Vision is generally of the future, not of what we have today.
Well, what I'm reading is the vision covers that whole paragraph. What I see, the present community character is defined by that low density or agricultural versus higher density. We're in the if you go down where it says, that's what I've got to get. Acknowledge that growth is up. There's a clear desire to be careful and deliberate design. So, maybe the issue there is when we say vision, maybe we should just call that community character. I don't know.
Well, that'd be fine.
Yeah.
If you want to take vision out, just put community character,
Okay.
then that makes more sense. I actually agree with that.
let me,
You're saying that the vision is not for low density.
Right.
Which I don't disagree with that.
okay.
But I would agree that the current, what they have, the current community character is low density.
Well, there's some, yeah, and I think there should be some areas for some low density still. I do.
Yeah, no, there should be. I agree.
And it's all on all the property you own
No,
out there.
I don't own any property out there.
You know,
Anyway.
that's the whole point. When you come in and say, I think there's parts that ought to be low density, well,
I
then
think some of those listen.
it's kind of a taking at that point.
Oh, I've seen.
Where
what
you
you're
end up
saying.
saying, well, we're gonna give you acre lots, but we're gonna allow him to have half acre.
Yeah.
Or third acres.
So I wasn't worried at all about saying low density because as we look at 3rd-acre lots, in most communities, that's low density.
Oh,
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, we're not
Okay.
talking, we're
It's
not
really
talking,
just,
I didn't view that as low density.
we're not talking 4-story buildings out there.
That's
No,
why I
we're
don't
not.
want 4-story buildings out there.
But I didn't view that as you just.
And if you
said
view that as a
Charlie.
taking,
I don't
I don't want
I don't
4-story
really, the
buildings
more I
out
think
there.
about it, I don't think low density.
Well, hold on, you just went from there to there though. I'm talking about in the middle. Big difference between an acre and a half acre or acre and a third acre.
I never talked about lot sizes on any of that. But I don't think 4-story buildings out there.
You're
is where we
getting
are.
kind of sensitive.
Probably.
I think you bring
I'll
up a
get
really
them
good
walking around.
point, though, because the term low density here, I think 3rd-acre qualifies. As we get into the land use section, I don't think we're calling 3rd-acre low density, so there's a conflict there. I'll fix it.
Okay.
And I think, Commissioner, or Pror, I think you were reading it how it was intended. The first sentence was to say, this is what we have.
Yeah,
This is how we want to continue.
that's how I see it. The first says, here's where we currently exist, here's where we gotta go.
But maybe we take that first sentence out and just further
Yeah,
explain it.
Well, and to Gage's point where it says, just take vision out.
So each chapter starts with its own vision,
Okay.
but.
Well, if you take the vision out and just leave community character and leave it,
Sure.
it's at the top. Actually, that makes a little more sense.
That makes sense.
You want me to do that in each chapter? Take the term vision out? So every
Well, I
chapter.
Well, I think there needs to be vision in the ones that make sense. But I think here you're really defining what we currently exist.
That's right.
And maybe you add a comment on vision down through the center where you start talking about the future.
Okay.
So,
I think that's fair. I think that's a good idea. Okay,
I don't want to wordsmith this, but.
so we're looking at, no,
We're talking what we're doing.
we're talking about getting down to the details. No.
Yeah, that's right what we're doing.
I thought we were staying out of the weeds.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So the intention of each chapter is you starts with a vision, then it goes to a vision that's specific to that chapter. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this vision is specific to not just this chapter, but the entire plan as well.
Right, I
This is
get
the
it.
very top. Like a transportation vision. You wouldn't transfer the transportation vision over to the land use, right? They're isolated in each of their chapters. Everything below, existing and projected conditions. When we write this, we are intending to speak to the vision. And then the goals
Yeah. Okay.
and implementation strategies are also intended to execute the vision, which is primarily, I think you're right. I think maybe we just start here. While many residents acknowledge the growth is inevitable, there's a clear desire for it to be carefully and deliberately designed in a manner that preserves, complements, and pays tribute to the agrarian roots of the community.
I like
I'm
that.
okay with that. That's a good idea.
I like
Take all
that.
that other out and just start right there.
You got it.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
If you do
I like-
that, keep the vision.
Yeah, then you can keep vision in. I'm with that.
Okay, we're in.
Oh, jeez. This gives me feelings of being in the legislature. Well, this is what we did down there. We sat at tables like this, groups of us with our attorneys and all these, and we'd wordsmith stuff, and it just. You know, you sit down with these damn attorneys, many of them had degrees in English. And so they'd sit there and talk this through, and hell, half of it I didn't understand, you know? So I was very careful about what I even said, because I didn't want to show my ignorance.
Well, yeah, you know, they could talk for an hour and a half on, should we use and or?
Yeah.
Not even about vision.
Or the.
We could be here another hour and a half just talking about the ands in here. We're not doing that, by the way.
Speaking of, sorry.
Keep going, Charlie. We're just nervous. You
I'm
guys,
You're good. Let's
you're doing good.
see if we could de-nerve it.
We used to talk about may or shall, so it just about drove me nuts.
About what?
May or shall.
Oh, yeah, mayor shall and or, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about some kind of a mayor shall. I thought, who's mayor shall?
Okay. So goal one
What
of this chapter.
municipality is that over?
Goal one of this chapter is to foster a future in which specific characteristics and differences of each small area within the planning area are supported and maintained as development occurs. So basically, if you look at the execution or the principles and the execution strategies, we're saying the general plan is general. It applies to all the unincorporated area, but there are smaller communities inside of these areas. We want to come back and revisit small area planning to get down to a little bit more of the brass tacks. If Taylor wants to incorporate as its own city, we should have something in the document that says, this is the Taylor specific area. This is the West Weaver specific area, the Reese specific area.
I like that. So are you gonna bring that up at the meeting on the 19th?
Yes, and then we're hoping to every year come back and hit which areas you ask us to look at. And go
So,
into more
so at
detail.
that point in time, you could say, look, you people from Taylor, you people from West Weaver that you think you haven't had input, here's where you're gonna have your input.
Yeah.
You're not gonna be able to talk about West Warren or Reese, but you can talk about West Weaver or Taylor. You live there.
Yep, it's a lot more specific to their area. Huh?
Yeah,
And then we come back, work with them. So let's say we're in the Taylor area, we've got a new high school, we've got maybe
Yeah.
a few more commercial areas. We come back and we say, gosh, it's gonna make a lot more sense maybe for this intersection to do X,
Yeah.
Y, and Z.
How
We
many
address more
longhorns do they have out in Taylor?
They're planning on having about 1,500 right now to start off.
Longhorn cattle? Cause I've never seen a
talking-
longhorn cattle out in Taylor
Sorry.
for 50, 60 years.
are they the Longhorns?
Yeah, actually, there's some guy out there's got a bunch of them.
They are the
right now.
Longhorns. And I was talking about
Yeah.
students, not cattle.
Well, I think that's an important part to bring up at that meeting.
Okay.
We'll do that.
And you'll find that idea of small area planning, you'll find that reflected in different chapters as well. We talk about it in the transportation chapter and the parks and recreation
Yeah.
chapter, et cetera.
I-
Okay, goal 2 of the same chapter, a goal of Weaver County, support and encourage longevity of agricultural opportunities. And then 3, reduce the unincorporated areas contribution to Sky Glow. 4,
That's your
Dark sky.
dark sky.
yeah, and I think there's no way we're gonna preserve the dark sky because we've got Ogden City right next door.
Yeah,
But
not down
maybe-
here you won't.
Maybe
Not
we
like the
can,
Upper Valley.
yeah, maybe we can reduce the overall.
Yeah.
Preserve the character, let's see, of current neighborhoods by encouraging new residences to have similar separation distances along rights of way. That's kind of thinking about if we go to the 30-acre zone, we're currently at 150 feet between homes. Current 30-acre zone allows something smaller. Well, maybe as we're looking at the street frontages on main streets, we're still seeing homes that are spaced out about that. And then behind that, maybe they're closer together. Okay. Ensure development activities are safe from geologic hazards. That's more relevant to the Uinta Highlands area. Okay, next section, land use. So here's the vision for the land use. Guide and encourage land uses to be organized in a manner that supports the creation of community and enhances the community's character. Provide a wide range of land use options, each in their own appropriate areas and contexts, so that the existing and future occupants of the area can enjoy a self-sustaining social and economic environment. The focus should not only be on the utility of land uses and infrastructure, but also on their aesthetic, carefully shaping beautiful neighborhoods. Using proven methods of lasting value will provide for a future community that can prevail over the rise and fall of temporary and rolling economic, social and design trends. So the intention here is essentially to say, if you want to have these rural areas, we've got to have some diversity to pay for your infrastructure leading out to those rural areas, including commercial land uses and retail tax,
Right.
et cetera. Okay. We talk about, if we were to build out to, sorry. If we were to do full build out, every single one of these little red dots on the map, it's hard to see. That represents 1 unit to the acre.
That's current zone.
That's current zoning,
Okay,
which our intention there is to communicate to the public, look,
Yeah.
growth is coming, whether it's 1 acre, 1 unit to the acre or smaller or larger, growth is coming. So maybe we could do better than what we currently have with small acre zoning. We can encourage.
Hold on, go back down there a second. So this area here, along here,
Mhm.
this is one that unit to the acre.
What do you think it is?
Well, isn't more of it a half acre and
Everything out there right now is.
Politic.
isn't the future.
All that in there, it's down towards West Haven, all through there.
Yeah.
Are you talking, this is currently, currently the zoning is.
Oh, that's the zoning, that's not actual homes.
Right, no.
That's
Okay.
current zone.
Gage, I got some ice, you want one?
Yeah, sure, thanks.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Okay, we provide an evaluation of the amount of acreage in different land uses. This is kind of important because when we look at water concurrency, we want to know what's it going to take to irrigate all of this? What's it going to take to water all of this? So you'll see more of that when we get to the water resource section. Okay, let's see, land use. Get to the bullet points a little easier here. So under land uses, when it comes to implementation. Here we go. I'm just looking off the side here. So we talked a little bit about residential land uses. You know, we've got large lot land uses, and those may be appropriate in certain areas, and the 1 acre zone might be a large lot land use. Well, maybe where we currently have agricultural protection areas, maybe that is a thought that's there. But we don't want to just say in these ag protection areas, one unit the acre is what it's going to be, right? We want to have a plan for what happens when that landowner comes and asks for something more dense. And so on the final land use map, you'll see everywhere that's an agricultural protection area, also crosshatched. It'll be crosshatched with both colors, the agriculture color and the residential color. Kind of gives the option for the planning commission, the county commission to move as you see fit when landowners come in and remove those areas from agricultural protection. We're talking about, so then we go to the 3rd acre lots. Talk a little bit about the possibility of getting slightly more density in appropriate locations after a rezone. So it's probably going to be like a master plan development overlay zone, where we see a large amount of public contributions offered. Maybe we're talking about moderate income housing. Maybe we're talking about dark sky. Maybe we're talking about good drainage facilities. Most of this is going to be required, but we're talking about people who want to go above and beyond their impact. If they are willing to give the county something above and beyond their impact, maybe we're willing to give them a little bit more change in their pocket. Okay. Then we go down to in the land uses. Let's see. Slide you guys down there while I talk about residential. We'll go down to commercial on these main intersection nodes. We're talking about mixed use commercial at these main nodes, which means retail on the ground floor, something that in a building that looks nice, that faces the street, maybe with some street parking, and then with the condos or apartments or something like that above in the mixed use area. Doesn't have to be residential above. I just think that's what's going to dominate for the short run. Long term, once we get more density in these areas, you'll see some office spaces and stuff like that open on the second level. Along 12th Street, we have a vehicle-oriented land use, where we're still kind of saying the same thing. You know, have your retail operations on the ground floor, but maybe it's a big box, maybe it's a drive-through, maybe it's a drive-through pharmacy or a coffee shop or something like that. Something that
You're talking 12th Street east of 4700.
yes, between 40. Yeah, that's right. Between 4700 and the city boundary. Yeah, it
And
doesn't
the
go
what?
up between 4700 and the city boundary.
Right,
Yep.
okay.
Okay, heavy commercial. So out on 8300, we've designated 8300 north and south as a heavy commercial corridor. Now we're so far away from getting that right now that we'll probably want to readdress that at some point in the next 5 or 10 years. But for the time being, there's not a lot of harm, I think, in putting some heavier commercial uses out there.
Can you show us that on the map?
Well, we did make the short list on that recycle. Did you see that?
No,
The group that came in from Memphis 2 weeks ago?
no kidding.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't mean much yet, but at least we're on the short list. Which means
Wow,
it's down to, what, 400
4. No kidding.
jobs.
That was the low water user too, weren't they? Really low.
Well, this is
Super
the
low.
one that, no, they're high water, but they return actually about
Oh.
90+% back into agriculture or other reuse water.
I remember that.
Yeah, that's actually really good.
But we'll
But
see.
they wanted 1,000 acres.
No, they can
Okay.
get by with the 200, the same, they're looking at the same ground that the
Yeah,
Japanese were looking at,
yeah, okay,
about 200 acres.
right.
So here's 8,300 here. And this kind of lighter pink. That is intended to be the heavy commercial area.
Say where your daughter lives.
What's the light pink?
The very light pink here, or
To
the,
the west, go west of
79.
300, go in that area.
so that is like an M2 zone. It's a light manufacturing or lighter manufacturing, and then the heavy rocket part manufacturing.
Got
Way out there.
Okay, I don't really disagree with that. 8,300 is a dead end road,
Right now. Mhm.
and whether it ever goes through, that is way projections out there.
Yep, I think we're
But,
50 years at least.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily opposed to that.
Putting together a plan, as we see things change and evolve, we change it. Okay. Let's see. Business and tech park. So we've got a couple of spots on the map where we've got colored brown, which would be appropriate for maybe a business or a tech industry. Business park is a really good land use to help divide residential uses.
Show us
and
that.
heavy commercial. So here's brown here along 12 or 900.
So that's a business park,
Business park before you get to 83.
okay?
So what's the difference between that
Mhm.
and this light purple or that light purple?
So instead of a business park, those lighter purples are intended to be manufacturing oriented. So warehousing, manufacturing operations, business is more like a tech industry, tech park.
To kind of give you an idea of that, if you go along 12th Street with BDO, the area right along 12th Street is meant to be more of a business tech area, where you got Boyer and that right at 12th and
We can't
BDO.
just make it all
or Depot
commercial,
Drive.
industrial and just forget it. huh?
You can, you'll share a boundary between lighter residential and industrial or heavy commercial. If
But
you do that,
everything has a boundary somewhere.
it does.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to
You know.
provide buffers, but we could certainly have it just dissolved in.
I don't know what to think there.
So what's your buffer on you've got light commercial there on the 5900 west?
59 here.
No, right, go down to 12th and 59, right there.
Mhm.
So that's light manufacturing.
That's light manufacturing. What buffer is here?
Yeah, what buffer? Why wouldn't you do business park there?
I'm more than happy to do business park there. Yeah, I think it makes more sense right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But I don't want to mess up whatever you guys are working on with others.
I'm
We're not really working on anything.
not working on
actively.
anything. To me, that makes more sense. This makes more sense as a business park rather than light manufacturing.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking. And light manufacturing, they're so close to each other. that If one wanted to be in there, I'm not sure
Well,
you could keep them out.
too much of a good thing means that nobody gets anything.
Right?
Look at all the light manufacturing here. I'm just saying that
Yeah,
this would probably develop as a business park long before that developed.
I agree with that.
So to me,
I absolutely agree with that.
I'm a no on light manufacturing at that site.
Okay, I think you've got,
Business park, I'm okay with.
I think you have members of the planning commission that would support that idea as well as others in the public. Now, just to make sure we're clear on what we're talking about, business versus light manufacturing. I envision business park being operations all happening inside. You go,
Yeah,
you
that's-
park, you operate.
That's how I see it. I mean, I've already had a number of people out in that area call me and say, we've heard you're trying to do manufacturing there, and to me, that's just a big
Okay.
jump.
Great.
I mean, the manufacturing ought to be out where this impacts, there's quite a few people
Yeah.
potentially around here, especially with that yellow.
Yeah.
Out here, you're not gonna have somebody looking out their window and seeing smoke come out of the smokestack.
Right.
So,
Yep, I agree with you. Okay, I'll change that to brown up in this area. There's a little bit of brown down in here as well.
Of
Just,
course, the reality of it though also is, when you talk about manufacturing, the distance, even though that's only a couple miles, the distance is an issue.
it is.
All right.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying, if you start with the business part, that's gonna encourage the heavier
Yeah,
manufacturing to go west.
I agree with that.
And And I think your demand right now in the marketplace is more for a business park like BDO, that's then gonna drive the optimization of the sewer, that this doesn't go anywhere without sewer.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Where's Blossom?
North.
Kind of in that area.
When you come out of place.
Oh, I know where it is. I just wondered why.
Yeah, right up there.
Next to Reese.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, it's out to the
all
north.
this slough is between Reese and Blossom. Blossom's come out there and we have Blossom's right there.
Okay. Anything else you want to look at on the map?
No, I think we're there.
Art, did you have a problem? Oh, go back to that second. I know Commissioner Harvey had issues with some of the commercial on 12. Do you still have problems with that or?
Up by 1900, but, you know,
Well, so this right here, Harv, right now today, that piece that you're talking about, that's gonna go to Mary Slaterville. They're annexed right now.
Yeah, that may not even matter.
No.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter. We're gonna lose that piece anyway.
So remind me again what the red is?
So the lighter red is vehicle oriented, the darker red is mixed use,
Okay.
commercial and residential.
What's the dark yellow?
Dark yellow is, we're calling it mixed residential. We're just saying in the dark yellow, market demand.
So if somebody comes in, wants to put some apartments or something along there.
Apartments,
Okay.
townhomes, condos.
I've heard UDOT's talking about a light here. Is that true?
On
It is,
3500.
it is gonna happen, yeah.
Yeah.
It is gonna happen.
Yep. They told us that when they were in here the other day, Gage.
Yeah. Well, then our concentration needs to be, they need to take care of that 12th Street all the way down to 47.
I agree with that.
That's our next project.
You're right, get that built up.
Especially with this, if we're gonna have any development out there, that's gonna be necessary.
So Charlie, I worry about, this is wetlands, right? These slashes,
Floodplain, yep.
floodplain. The new plan that came out. Does it identify that in that scope right there?
The shape that you see there in the new floodplain map. is that what you- Yep, the shapes you see here are based on the new floodplain map. Even though it's not adopted yet, we figure it's probably better information than what was previously adopted.
So should we fight that at all? Is that something we should fight?
There are some who are fighting.
Because that is a tremendous expansion of the floodplain.
It's big.
It is.
And for ag, that's no big deal. But guys that are not on ag that want to possibly develop, like this area right down in here.
Mhm.
And on the east side of the river, right in there, you know, and there. Those are potentially some areas that could develop.
Now, on the west side of the river, I'm still speaking with Flagship Homes, and they are very well aware of the need to go through wetlands delineation, and they're planning on going through a FEMA map amendment process. So they will be proposing
Oh.
ways that they're going to change the topography of the land in order to allow that map amendment to happen.
So I went down into planning the other day and sat in on a meeting, a big meeting with all these guys out there.
The residential.
Right. And if I misspeak, I want you to correct me, Charlie.
Okay.
It appears to me that this is well along its way of being a PID and development happening, and then working with the railroad to get the, well, in fact, they brought up,
Pass.
we told them we wanted to come under here to hook the sewer. And after the conversation, they said, look, what if we want to bring it here and across the bridge and up here?
It's probably closer.
Yeah, and I told them, I didn't care how they did it, that was up to them.
Let them solve
We
that.
were trying to just make it easy.
Yeah.
So they actually are looking at other directions there.
Are they? So they're serious about moving ahead with that.
They are.
Okay.
Now with housing slowing down and everything kind of cooling down now, I suspect that whole concept will cool down a little bit.
Maybe. They're still calling, they're still working, and we still have a housing shortage. It's just
Yeah, that's true, we do.
interest rates doing what they're doing.
Yeah,
We'll see.
it will slow. It's not gonna stop.
That's the way I view it. It'll slow but not stop.
Commissioner, if I could interrupt for just a second. That FEMA study has been underway long enough. It might be a little bit too late to object to any of that changing in that area. Now, that being said, as developers or builders or whoever want to do what they want to do, they can go through the LOMAR process, which pulls it out of that and streamlines what the floodplain is currently enlarged to do. However, the time to object to that, the deadline was about last year or so before we really started a lot of this. So to really object wholeheartedly, blanketly to all of this, it's probably a little bit too late. But they do have a chance to do the LOMARs to change that map area and reduce it. Because what they do, how they paint that area is very broad brush, very high level looking at topography to determine that. And the LOMAR process allows you to go in and look at a little bit more exact, a little bit more finite, and really identify what those boundaries would be. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So to really fight it, it's probably a little bit too late, I think.
All right.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
So.
We've got 5 more minutes before this is scheduled to end. Looking at this map here, the larger lines that you see, whether they be white or black lines, those are intended to be either arterials or collector streets. We're not putting on this map the neighborhood streets. There will be a map in the appendix that generally lays out section line and quarter section line streets.
You're gonna put the sewer lift station master plan in this?
Yep, the lift station
Okay.
master plan will be, I don't have that map done yet, but I will have that done in a different document, or sorry, a different map.
Okay.
So we'll have a streets map, we'll have a parks and recreation map, we'll have the sewer master plan map, which will include a couple of lift stations on the other side of the river, which it currently, the master plan currently does not.
So one thing to talk about, do you guys have a desire, and maybe you want to do this later on after I'm gone, to do a transferable development right out here?
That's interesting.
Well, I had a farmer out here say that very thing to me, because he says, I would love to transfer a few of my rights today off the farm and sell them up the street where they could build some density, and it allows me to keep the farm intact and allows us to build some density.
Well, as soon as, go ahead, Gage. I'm not sure it's not time if we're gonna do a TDR ordinance to make it countywide, not just, we take a lot of heat in the valley. But there's gonna be the same issues we have out west with farmers transferring that density. To me, if it's good policy for Upper Valley, it's probably good policy for Lower. I don't see any reason we'd have two, and let's correct me if you think I'm wrong. I don't see any reason to have two. Now, obviously we'll have different sending and receiving zones.
Yeah.
Like we do, but in terms of how the structure is and how they're banked, I don't know why we couldn't do it.
We could do it.
So
Same
go
with
back.
Mark,
Do
and
you
I
see it
just go-
different than that?
Go back to the map for a second.
Okay, before I go back, 5.1.2 talks about.
Interesting.
TDR profile.
5.1.2, create transferable, yeah.
So
Right, so it's in the plan that we should create it. Now go back to the map. So I can ask a question. So if that's the case, and you show these as mixed use densities, the
Mhm.
yellows,
Yeah.
then what do you do if I own 5 acres and then want to build 30 units? Do I have to buy some of those? Because I already own the lands that's zoned that.
Well, so that brings up the $1 million question that we talked about. So are those development rights established as they exist prior to this or after?
Well, there you go. That's the $1
It's a big
million
difference.
question. That's a
Well,
huge
so-
difference.
That's what we're fighting in the valley right now.
Yeah.
Is that, do they give up those density rights once they filed that plat? Or,
Yeah.
you know what we're saying? It goes back to that conversation we've had the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and this is where my opinion as an old planner 34 years ago, 40 years ago comes in. And that is the fact that I always thought if I've got that zoned on there, that it is zoned for the density that it is. Now, if I wanted to, if the zoning allowed me to put 30 and I wanted to put 45 and I could go out and buy 15 and put in there, then I'm okay with that. But I don't want to take away the 30 that the zoning gives me, and I'm of the opinion, once the zoning's passed, that yes, they do have those
Okay,
rights.
well, that's $1 million question. I mean, that's the Ogden Valley plan describes that as being, they don't want any new density created. What we're doing here is creating new density.
So
Yes,
We're absolutely creating new density.
that's absolutely
Right?
true.
Yes, well, sort of.
So,
I don't have the $1 million answer. I've got the $500,000 answer. We're halfway to creating new density. We're not creating new density until the landowner changes.
yeah,
the
okay,
zone.
I,
Does that make sense?
But yeah, it does. But what we're telling them is we will accept it in there.
Yep, in these cases.
but if they come in when they've got their water, sewer, they've got their plat, they get that new density.
So what I would, what I.
They
think
have
we're
to
gonna see-
ask for it, and
Yeah.
it has to be zoned.
Yeah.
But we can't turn it down because it's in the master plan.
You can turn it down. You've got full discretion to say
We
no
can.
if it's zoning. It's legislative on zoning,
It is, but it has to be more than just your opinion to turn it down.
not in these cases. All
No?
you gotta do is say it's not in the public interest right now. Not the right time, not
No
the right place.
kidding.
It's on the plan. We'll do it at some point, but not right now. Now, I don't know that you should do that.
This
But
opens
you
the
can.
door for that to happen.
This what?
This opens. the
Yeah,
door for
right.
that to happen.
Not that we have to. but-
Wow.
It also opens the door for some strong negotiations. You want 50% more density than
Yeah,
we have,
that's-
you want 100% more density than is marked on the map, great, go buy 50%.
That's how I view it. So it gives us the ability to say, look, you want X number of units.
Yep.
Then we'll allow you half those, you go buy them from somebody else.
Yep. So you recall that section we talked about within the two planning commission, county commission joint work sessions 2 times ago, where Commissioner Jenkins, you mentioned, why are we listing these things as optional? Why don't we just make them required? Some of these, I mean, my intention was in our negotiations with some of these landowners, we say, some of these higher level stuff, we're not ready to require of all developers, maybe if they're just going to the 3rd acre, but if they're gonna go to anything more dense, apartments or mixed use or whatever, yeah, we wanna see some of these optional things in there.
Give me an example.
Solar panels required on the rooftops, for example, higher efficiency buildings, instead of zone 3 buildings, it's zone 4 buildings. I think dark sky might have been one of them, maybe that was a requirement, I can't remember.
Good night. So you are thinking that we're gonna get into that?
Potentially, again, the plan
But in this
says,
plan, they won't be there.
the plan will say, here are some ideas. And then it'll be up to us, planning commission, you guys ultimately to negotiate with the developer, what is it that you really want?
We've had developers reach out to us already and ask what that looks like. We've kind of drawn up some concepts, so there definitely is some interest to maximize density.
See, I like you guys having that flexibility where we're not setting such, we set it too strong, too much or too less, then we're always, but if we have the flexibility, say, okay, we let you do this, we'll trade you for that. That's better for them and it's better for us.
I
Because
agree.
we get what we want without being so structured. They don't, if it's too structured, they come to us and say, we want to change anyway.
Yeah.
So maybe someone comes in and says, I want to bring in
Yeah.
a few thousand people, that equals this much open space for the park district. If we
Yeah.
were to say, gosh, if you're gonna bring in that amount of people, we want you to have double that amount of park
Yeah.
space. We could do it at that point.
Here's the,
After we pass the rezone, however, we can't. It's whatever the code says and it's whatever the development agreement says at that point.
as soon as you do development rights, so that you basically say, this is basically about how many people or how many dwellings we're gonna allow in Weaver County.
Yeah.
Unless the city comes in and annexes it and has a different,
Yeah,
that's a big deal.
of which we would encourage, right?
Isn't that a taking?
If we restrict it too much, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You were right there. Now, this gets down to your perspective on it, right? You can say, well, if we go to half-acre lots, that's half or double what it is today. So certainly that isn't a taking. But if we went to 3-acre lots, then that'd be like the Upper Valley.
Well, what about,
What do you mean by the word taking? Like, it's not, wouldn't be an illegal taking.
Well, you
But it
take
certainly
people's
would feel like-
rights
yep,
away from them.
Yep, okay, yep. Yep, from a policy
And
perspective.
density, when you take somebody's density away, that's financially, that's a taking.
It's not something we would be responsible to compensate for. It doesn't mean we shouldn't.
No,
But
No,
but
we're
under
not,
this
but-
plan, we're increasing density. We're actually giving
We are.
We're giving
That's
additional.
right. We're actually going the opposite.
We're going the opposite way from what we've done in the valley.
Correct.
I've got a TDR
Because
book,
it
it's
was
called
down.
Beyond Takings and Givings. It uses both of them.
We took now.
Yeah.
Well, you're.
Hold on.
hurting when that, you sit around and read that kind of.
It's the job I do. It's not leisure reading.
Well, I like the idea of the
Hold on, did
flexibility.
you have something?
That makes a lot, that makes a lot of sense.
That's hard for us to speak up here. Let the room be silent.
So at what point then, let's just for giggles here, this is all half acre. All the red turns into, all the 1 acre turns into half
It's yellow for
Okay.
the colorblind.
acre.
Yeah, yellow.
Does that devalue this because this isn't yellow?
Possibly.
It might, but we have to look at where do you want the if we're gonna have a functioning commercial manufacturing area, you've got to put it somewhere.
Okay, that's great.
Won't
What
have
if these people, these landowners here say, well, I don't want that to be in that manufacturing. I want it to be, I guess they could downzone it then. Into,
Possibly.
So you could change the zoning, you could come in and
Yeah.
ask for a change. If you want to put houses there or something like that.
Commissioner, I think the bigger question you're asking is who wins and who loses.
yeah,
And I don't know how to give a better answer than land use and zoning controls isn't always fair. Question is, to what level do we go to provide a good cohesive community?
But can't they petition to change the zone or
They
change?
could, but
Yeah,
if this stays purple here, my recommendation to the commission is no. Just because I recommend no, that certainly doesn't mean that the commission should say no.
Wow.
Do what's in your best interest.
it's a big deal.
Well, what you've done here, and what we're, I think, attempting to do is create this master plan or view for the future, which creates an opportunity for business, for residential and manufacturing. And to me, you've got to do it in the right ratios, or then, like I said, that's why that I push back on manufacturing on that 59. There has to be a balance between those, or you're gonna have people come in, they're gonna be unhappy, or it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the market's gonna drive this.
Yeah.
We may think that we're in charge, we're not. The market's gonna drive this.
I agree with that.
So-
The market drive.
All we're gonna-
Always does.
All we're doing is giving the opportunity to the landowners out there to say, take this, and if you can make this work with the market, do it.
That's actually a really good way to look at that. So we are flooding the market with opportunities.
We are.
And then those opportunities, who takes them and executes them, that's how this stuff gets done. Yep. you're
Yeah.
right. And in time, we might find some land uses that don't quite match this. And in time, that's why we redo general plans.
Yeah.
10 years, 20 years, we look at it again.
Yeah, I agree. But this gets us a start that we don't have now.
Well, in this whole thing.
All right.
Randy Giordano wants a rezone out there. This does not facilitate that.
He wants a rezone to what?
To commercial.
Heavy commercial.
He wants heavy, which,
Well, he doesn't want a heavy commercial. These guys are simply running, it's the people who line those pipes
where is he right now?
on 5100 West. So you can see 55 right here. So 51, so he's about right there where that little creek comes down, just
Yeah.
right in there. Is where he is.
Oh,
And we just approved a subdivision right through there.
Right next to him.
Right.
They're right next to it.
Didn't we?
And Randy just wants, these guys want to go in and put it up a metal building and park their stuff in there. They want to drive out there and go do their work. So it'd be very much a business facility. And it's right next to the greenhouses.
So that would be a brown business park, you might call
Would you call it that,
it.
Scott?
Or would it be?
not Randy Giordano, Randy Ropalato.
Or Ropalato, not Giordano, Ropalato.
Ropalato.
You're right, I got that wrong.
Just one parcel. I mean, I don't know, there's.
It's 4 acres. It's a 4-acre parcel. It's the old turkey farm.
All right.
Yeah, it's the old turkey farm. It still smells like them damn turkeys. You know, turkeys, you can't hardly get rid of that.
No, it sticks around a while.
That's a hard
Devin
question to
Hobbs,
answer.
right?
I think.
But he
it's,
wants that request today, and we've been holding him off for this, and this does not accommodate that now.
I think it either fits light manufacturing or heavy commercial. Light manufacturing is one step beyond heavy commercial. Mostly because is gonna be a little bit of outdoor storage, and so there's gonna be some operations that happen beyond the walls of buildings.
But if I was a resident out there, and this was in my backyard, it would not offend me. Because it's gonna be, well, it'd be like, trying to think of a place I could picture. It wouldn't be like BDO, because BDO is great big tall cement buildings. This is gonna be like a,
It'd be like the industrial park, maybe someone's house in like far west, kind of closer to that industrial park.
yeah, that's exactly what it'd be like, just like that. Residential, fairly close to commercial. And, I suspect this will probably be a metal building that they'll set up there, that they'll park stuff inside and an office on the side, work out of it, and have a little bit of yard storage.
The industrial park that we have is the lighter purple color. So the one that's up between Pleasant View and Far West or whatever is that purple. So we'd color this purple if we wanted to do that. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't. What we're recommending here, challenge is what happens when those guys who are lining those pipes move out. They're gonna sell the land, they're definitely gonna want the highest and best use, or the next person's gonna want the highest and best use, so that, they'll pay top dollar for it if it's purple. Now, at that point, anything allowed in that light manufacturing would be allowed on that side.
That was some of the
Well-
planning commissioner's concerns.
Right, so that's one of the reasons I like the idea of doing
Development agreement.
development agreement.
And I think that would work just fine.
Yeah, where you could go and say, look, this is what it is, and you just can't, I mean, they don't have to have somebody lines pipes in there, but they got to have somebody in there who's gonna occupy that warehouse on that property with a little bit of outside storage, and it's gotta be quiet. They can't be manufacturing in there, they can't be doing things that are substantially different than what these guys are doing, right?
Yeah.
And for that matter,
You could,
the
but it does open the door.
the great big, what do we call them out there? Not the guys that occupy that place behind them, the greenhouses,
Greenhouse.
they could buy
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, they could buy that for offices and a front entry if they want to,
Absolutely.
and that would fit right in.
I would be less inclined to discourage you from coloring it brown for office and tech, if that's what you're thinking.
Say it again, you would be less,
Sorry. I would support coloring it brown over coloring it purple.
This company though, they want purple, right? At least the pipelining company, they're gonna have outdoor storage. It is gonna look.
well, sure, they're gonna have some outdoor storage, there's gonna be equipment, there's gonna be bins and stuff like that.
So that's the operations outside building. I think we would probably do the M1 to protect them from nuisance claims.
Yeah,
So
I
you-
hate, don't like the idea of an M1 next to residential we've already approved.
Yeah,
That's the tough spot. I mean, I would love to see Randy do what he wants out of this property if there wasn't a.
Well, if we coated it brown, then they just know that everything they had to be put inside.
Yeah.
It'd be just that simple.
Just a big building.
Say, look, you can put a building there, you can put offices, you can operate out of it. And if you have vehicles, you can park them.
We also need
But
to make
any
sure-
other material has got to go inside.
we need to make sure they-
I'm okay with the brown property. I'm not okay with purple.
That they're on the.
You okay with that?
responsible to build that road.
All right, Charlie,
I'm not okay with purple, but brown.
Brown, you got 3 votes there.
Well, brown it is. Well, we solved-
Okay,
We solved one thing.
yeah, we solved that.
Which, so you
Now,
got.
Randy
Brown
might
up
not be
there,
happy
changing
with it,
that
but that's
brown
what
and
he's
changing
got.
that.
He talked to you about extending the road through.
He does,
Yeah, what about the road? I thought we had a road.
well, the
Yeah.
guy that owns Panea owns a fair amount of that, and he says, told me personally, he says, as long as I own this, that road will never go through.
I remember that story.
Yeah, he told me he'd sign a contract that would reserve that space for the road as long as we're willing to agree to a certain number of homes in the future when he sells. If he chooses.
Yeah.
So he put those 2 greenhouses at a separation where we could get a road through. if we
I think
needed.
Hold on. So he's wanting some higher density.
Well, he's not looking to get it yet. He's just thinking for the future. If the county wants a road here, I'd be willing to align it here. But number one, on the front end, to get the financing he needed, he couldn't show any kind of a road or a right of way or anything right there. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gotten the financing that he needed at the time. But number two, in the future, when he does choose to sell, if he chooses to sell or dies and somebody else comes in, he wanted the property to have maybe something assigned to it that allowed him some amount of density. So he's thinking.
That
about
might not be too far out of the whack where we're talking now anyway.
I agree.
Yeah, might not.
Okay. I'm way over time. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
That's never happened before.
I feel like I did less talking.
You're good today.
Did good.
Good.
Now,
All
These
right.
are hard. These are like marathons for me.
Yeah.
you've got all the other chapters in there. I think we've already gone over most of the details in all of those.
Break it down in
agree.
small chunks, Harv. That's how you do American.
So I think you're to a point where you're ready to place this out.
Yeah, we've already
Okay.
noticed it for public hearing.
Here we go.
Ready to rodeo.
Okay, thanks, Charlie.
Thank you.
All right, so Roy Watt and Powder Mountain Water and Sewer are sitting out there right now.
What's all that about, Harv?
Oh,
Talk about their
I think they're
responsibilities.
probably just giving us an update from where they probably would be my guess.
I've been invited to this next
All
one.
right.
You
I haven't been
have-
in one of their meetings since we met.
Send them in.
Really?
So that's good.
Thanks, guys. Hey, Rick, I'm gonna look at those questions and then get back to you here later.
Do you want that to come from the commission office or from the planning office?
I'd rather have it come from planning.
Okay, I'll send you that once you give me the.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, Chad.
Good, how are you doing?
Takes a back seat, huh?
Chad, he always sits on, he always gets in that before anybody else can. Welcome.
I'm good, thanks.
Hey, Gary, how are you doing?
Good, man, how are you?
The same trip I did.
Yeah, no
I
kidding,
can,
right?
I will.
You're awesome.
Walmart,
Thank you.
welcome back.
With our girls.
Come on in here. We gotta get started. We're running a little behind. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Remember Brad Gilson?
I remember him.
How are you,
Shut
Brad?
that door, Roy.
I got a picture to show you before we leave.
All right. And we welcome you here today. So who's gonna take control of this meeting? Who called this one?
Probably
Oh,
talk.
did you guys call this?
I think we did.
Okay, go ahead then.
Yeah, so, as we're working through the processes, in getting people moved into homes and the approval processes and everything.
Uh-huh.
And also.
Up on the mountain?
Yeah, so this is up on top. Well, it's almost everywhere the district serves, top or bottom. It's important for us to be able to make sure that we have a process that functions or works in the approvals of the developments. When we issue capacity assessment, will serve letters and then also, in order to guarantee that things get in the ground properly, then there's processes like signing on plats. Where the district could sign on a plat, and that would give us and probably anybody else in the county protections to make sure that before a developer gets too far along, that all of the i's been dotted, t's crossed. And so that's what we're here to talk about. Brad's done this, our engineer, Brad Gilson has been doing this for a while and understands the processes, and Carrie Zinger, she deals with this probably on a day-to-day basis also. And so we just wanted to see if we could adjust the process of that to make sure that it fits, and we get what we need as far as the.
So have you given Sean something here?
As far, we've talked about,
Oh, you're sitting there reading. I thought
Oh,
you
no,
were reading
sorry.
something he,
I was just looking at the agenda.
oh, okay. Well, do you have a proposal?
Well, maybe Brad, if it's something that you think is gonna work.
Yeah, our proposal is to just have a signature block on the plat.
That look.
I think, may I speak to this, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair?
go ahead.
So what's
Don't let
happened
me
is,
get in your way.
okay, great. There's somewhere along the process here. The district, the water provider, sewer provider has been omitted from the plat. I believe there was some discussion they had with the attorney, and they thought the attorney, if I understood it correctly, said that it's probably a great idea, it would be best in the county's interest from a liability standpoint, if on that plat, that there was a signature thing on that plat that they, so they're basically just, I think they're here to petition us to say, hey, listen,
All right.
we want a signature block on the plat. That's it.
So today we require a will serve letter, and you would actually like us to put a block on the Mylar to sign.
Both.
Well,
Will
the
serve
problem
letter
with the
and,
will serve letter, we've got a whole bunch of different steps in the development process before they finally start building. We've
Right.
got,
And will
we're
serve
just
at the very, very
investigating,
front.
oh, now we need a will serve letter, now we have plans, now we have. And as you know, the developer's always at a different stage and they all come at it from a little different direction. And I think it tightens up that if they realize they've got a signature on that plat and they're not selling lots until we've signed off on it, it helps us to clean up all the little
Dave,
details.
what do you think about this? You're on the development side.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I don't see any downside.
Yeah, I don't see it down, other than maybe it slows the process up a little.
I mean, that's the thing I would say is, as long as, sometimes I've seen on the signature
Sure.
requirements, if somebody decides to hold that for whatever reason, as long as it was held, if there was issues with it that didn't coincide with what they'd submitted to you previously, I understand it, but I just I'd want to make sure that everything meets your criteria. And I don't know if we put a time frame in there or some other, but yeah, I wouldn't want to see a Mylar sitting here signed by the commission and then you guys was trying to chase you down 3 weeks from now, saying, they're coming in here, we're ready to go, they've got a loan in place, they're ready to start. Well, why hasn't Powder Mountain signed it? And I'd hope it'd do the opposite, that they would be coordinating us with us early in the process, knowing that, and that all that would ever be resolved, so the day you guys sign is the same day we sign. With you guys, I'm sure that's how it would work. I just, worry about the future. If the, boards in the future would be as responsive, but, bottom line, Mr. Chair, I have no issue with it.
And commissioners, the code already allows this to happen. It's already in our zoning ordinance. So this
Oh.
isn't an issue.
So all we have to do is add under the plat.
Correct.
Judas, this is easy.
Yeah, it
Well, it is easy,
Yeah.
but the way I look at this, well, go ahead, before I say, John, why don't you go ahead?
Why would you hold up a plat? What would be the circumstances where it would go left or south and you'd say, we have a problem, we're not signing because of?
Yeah.
What are the most dramatic issues, especially in your inspection process, which we've talked about before, is you said it didn't get our okay, and all of a sudden now we've got a situation where we've got something happen. We didn't inspect it, we didn't see it, we didn't approve it. What are the most dramatic issues why it would be delayed, it wouldn't get moving along? Can you describe that?
So this is from the time they issued a will serve.
Yeah.
To now we're the 4, 5, 6 months later, and now the Mylar's out, and all of a sudden now they wouldn't sign.
It's not 9 feet, it's 7 foot depth or whatever.
Yeah,
Something is-
whatever.
pipe is in the ground. What is it?
We've got a very prescriptive development procedures they follow, that we give to them up front. And the only reason we wouldn't sign it is if they haven't met that criteria, if they haven't paid their fees, if they haven't finished their plans.
So is your criteria the same as the county's? Or the developer?
Yeah.
Well.
So on the front end, all your
specific to our,
will serve letters saying, will you serve it or won't you? And you say, yes, if you meet all our criteria, we'll serve it. So that's that simple. Or on the back end, you have a whole list of things they have to. Okay.
But there's your problem. They say, well, they didn't attain what we wanted. And how do you negotiate that out?
Well, that basically asks the question I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
We're relying on the district, though, to give us the go-ahead before we give approvals.
yeah,
Right.
So if there's a disconnect there, that's what we've got to address. Because we don't just go ahead until we've heard that, until we have a letter from
Yeah,
the
we're the
district.
last one to sign.
Correct, that's right.
Yeah, so we start out with a capacity assessment letter. Basically, that determines that there's ability in resources and infrastructure and everything to take care of the development. That's the first thing out the gate. And after that's been done, and then the next one is review and engineering and everything and work with the county on the plans. And then finally, Carrie would be the one that would issue the will serve letter, and that's at the time of permitting, right, Carrie?
Time of permitting, yes.
Yeah. So I think our intent, at least the goal, is to make sure that we make sure the development gets put together properly and that there are no issues. And once that plat gets out, the developer has the ability, like almost like a blank check, but it says, I'm now have a product I can start selling and start moving my project along. And if there's somehow some of this critical infrastructure and its design and all the other pieces have been missed, then it leaves the homeowner with a maybe not a fully functional system. And we want to avoid that, so we don't ever have that happen.
Commissioner Jenkins, Brad Edwards said he could comment from the planning commission perspective if you would want him to
Yeah,
comment.
I would. Brand, why don't you go ahead and take yourself off mute? We'd love to hear from you.
Thanks, Commissioner Jenkins. Basically, when we went through that water ordinance a couple of years ago, that was something that was changed in there. And it was the reason why they wanted that specifically left out, that the water district do not sign on the plats, was because there's so many water districts in the Upper Valley. Sometimes it's hard to get a board member or the right person in there to sign the plat when they want to record. Now, I'm going to change my hat a little bit and go to Taylor West Weaver. And what we've done to overcome this is when we issue a will serve letter on that, one of the requirements for final approval is there is a signature block on there for the water district to sign on. So that's a condition of approval that the water district puts on it. So that might be a solution
So Brand,
to their
when
issue.
you say there's a place to sign, are you talking about on the Mylar or on the letter?
Yes, sir. No, on the Mylar, there is a block. That's a
So
condition of
that's part
approval.
of their will department.
Yes. So
Oh, I see. That's good.
they've got a block.
Well, so the comment I was gonna make is if we do this, will this affect every district in our entire county? Because we will be doing the same thing, won't we?
It doesn't have to, they don't have to have the signature on the
It's
plat.
it's one or the other. So they can either get an unconditional final approval letter from the district, or they can have the district sign the plat. Now, what Brent said is helpful for us as staff, because we already know, looking at the will serve letter, oh, the district's gonna make you sign the plat. They're not gonna give you hookups, they're not gonna give you your final will serve. They wanna sign the plat. So if Powder Mountain did that same thing, if they said, no, they just need to communicate that to the developer, that they need to sign the plat and put that on their will serve letter.
This is the rub, though. We have a lot of different water entities, and every water entity calls it something different. I just heard capacity assessment, which I like that word. We call it feasibility. We used to call it will serve.
I like that too.
No,
that's good.
The Valley calls it can and will serve.
Yeah.
Right. I want to see a can't and will serve. But yeah, point is once our code says, especially with the unconditional letter of acceptance, that's the point that they accept the plat. After the plat, you got a lot of stuff that happens. You got to design,
Right.
you've got to install, you've got to inspect, all that kind of stuff. So just signing the plat alone does not constitute approving all that stuff there, but not all the water companies use the same terminology or the same process to get there.
Well, I'm not necessarily opposed to this, but I think a district needs to make a request of the county to do it. So that, we're not chasing our tail all the time, trying to keep up with all this. Does that make
the issue
sense?
that we've had. So because because Powder Mountain doesn't issue an unconditional letter, I've got emails just saying, hey, can we record this plat? Are you guys good with recording this plat? But yeah, it would be nice if, like you said, if we had something from the district that said, please require a signature, we will know that
Such a
we
formal
should look for that.
request.
Well, you could do that on the will serve letter, right? Kind of what Brent said. So if a particular district does a will serve, the last paragraph could be, by the way, we reserve the right to file this on the plat, where another water company could say, we'll just give you the final unconditional. Leave it up to them. So I don't see that we change it for everybody. I see that they request it. And if the current company is happy with unconditional, so be it.
Does that meet what you want, Steve?
That work?
Yeah, that works.
I cover everything you deal with, Terry?
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
it makes sense to me, yes.
Are you okay doing it that way?
I mean, yeah, if it's important to you guys, request it and
All right, this is a win-win.
Yeah.
We all agree on something.
wow.
That's the first time in a couple months.
I just want to ask one quick question process wise.
Now Gary.
I know, ruin,
Someone's
someone's got a ring on the party.
Gee.
Flying away.
And this is not an objection, this is just a process clarification. Who is the signing authority from the district?
We would have probably the chairman sign.
Now, but the chair is up there on top of the mountain, right?
Not all the time, no. So, but if I suspect the board can give authorization to whoever they want to sign it, it could be me if they choose to do so.
I'm just thinking,
When we were district engineer for South Valley Sewer
right,
District, we as a district engineer would sign it.
okay. I'm just thinking through the process, right?
So you're saying somebody would have to physically drive into this office and sign it?
Exactly.
My recommendation would have the final plat go to the water company for signature first, then bring it in.
Okay,
So we won't accept the final plat unless the water company signs it.
because this gets a little,
Just block down the road.
that's right, this gets a little complicated. It doesn't have to be, it can be simplified, right? That way, we're not shuttling a plat all the way up to the top of the mountain to have somebody, one specific individual. You know, it needs to be simplified where someone that's a block away that our planners or myself could walk it to.
Or
You
we
see
could-
what I'm
We
saying?
could come in and
In
sign.
practice,
Just let
the
us know.
signature from
email,
Roy,
text.
just a block away would be the.
Exactly. So that's the only place I was going with that, right? Just let's make sure we
All right.
identify who that is and.
The point is though, it's their problem, not ours.
Correct. Commissioner.
When we're ready to have it signed, it's sitting here until you sign it.
Easy on you.
See, that wasn't so bad.
It's
Yeah,
still
that's
our
true.
problem. If it's sitting here in this building, waiting for someone to sign it, it's still our problem.
Still our problem to sign, yeah.
That's right.
That's why I say I think it should go to whatever water entity is out there, sign it. The water company will work with that water agency to get that done and then.
Yeah, I
we
think
do
that's
it.
a great idea.
All right.
It helps when it's on that letter, because then the developer knows, and then the planner knows. So it's helpful.
Great. All right, we'll start. And that'll just be
Is that
part
what
of
you
our
want?
process.
Yep.
So if you'll request it on all your rule search now, we'll start doing it.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
That's easy. Thank
Beginning
you.
immediately, right?
Thanks, yeah.
Yeah.
Effective immediately.
And we got you back on
It's
schedule.
already in our code.
Yeah.
It's already allowed.
Well,
That's, we don't even have to, we don't have to have an ordinance.
That's
on this.
okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Good deal. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate that.
Well, that's easy.
That was.
Easy stuff.
Thanks, gentlemen. Thanks, Mr. John. Come back when you can stay a little longer.
Thanks, John. All right, 2:00 is discussion regarding the West Warren Water District Building.
What's that?
Tucker.
Let's grab him. Hang on just a minute.
What happened,
There he
Tucker?
is.
He's coming.
There he is.
Tucker, Gary, Sean, Bill, Ross, Liam. There you go. All right, Tucker, what do you got, bud? This is all here for you, all of us. You're the man.
I was hoping the people from Warren will be here, but.
Is Randy out there by chance?
I didn't see him.
Let me go take a
no.
peek. See if he-
Randy who?
Randy,
Or any of the other? Or did you?
he said he was gonna come, but I don't think he needs to be here. Yeah, they're not here yet. What's up?
Uh-huh.
So this is for Warren, West Warren Water, whatever you want to say. They came in for a building permit for one of their structures.
Okay.
New structure. This is the code that I'm gonna refer to.
Thanks.
So as part of their building permit, we came up with these impact fees for storm drain and roads. It's classified as commercial.
Oh, this has to do with
Their
warehouse.
Their new warehouse.
This is all,
Randy,
yeah,
Randy Giordano.
you're Randy Giordano.
Yep.
Oh, gee.
So he-
Who's whining like Napa Valley.
Anyway, so he came in, well, first he was pretty shocked to see the number of $1,900 for the impact fees. So he was wanting to either get them waived or reduced, and we kind of agree with them. I mean, it's there's a room for secretary and storage.
It's your typical, like we discussed a little while
What's the
ago.
size of this room?
That's a
It's
little
a little
bigger. They've got a
bigger than that.
backhoe they park in
Yeah.
there. They've got a secretary that, and you know,
The building's 3,000.
Yeah,
Randy
big,
worker,
It's a garage and
Oh,
garage
it's a
and
metal-
garage.
Exactly.
a metal barn, right?
So 7,700 feet of,
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, public won't be going, I mean, every once in a while they'll go there. to
Yeah,
get a
they
and they
little
want us
bit
to waive the fees.
That's right.
Yeah, they'd like to. So I asked Liam about this and he brought up the code, and there is stuff in our code section that I gave you guys that gives
Well,
us
once
the option to
again,
do
why
that.
do we have a connection fee if we're just gonna waive it all the time? It ought to be a
Impact fee.
little realistic.
I think this kind of goes back to that last one that we talked about, up the value of storage units is our fees, they don't really tailor, it's just a one, commercial year this, industrial this, we don't really have our fees to be able to go off of a use, really. And maybe that's what we need to work on in the future, but anyways, that's what they're asking.
Yeah, you're not in the gutter. You're not the gutter ball. You're going for a strike.
So this is like the second or third time this has happened to us in the last 8 or 10 months.
Yeah.
Or somebody's come in and said, well,
Yeah.
can you waive this? I mean, one of them was the
storage units.
storage units
That's
up
right.
there.
And I think, my comment is more of an advocating comment for Randy because he feels where they're a service provider or not so much government, but they're a service provider. They were hoping for some sort of leniency
Service
or.
provider. I'm sure anybody who operated a store or anything would say, we provide a service.
They are governmental.
Yeah.
And
They
so,
are, but so what?
so
I
They were-
mean, governmental entities, they represent a large body of people. They probably have a better ability to pay than a business does. Yeah, I have a hard time cutting any slack there. In fact, if anything, because they're a governmental entity, I have less desire to cut slack. Harv, you want me to cut you a little when you build the back man's deal? I don't know. It's
So I
hard.
guess- so that's what we came, we talked with Randy, had a conversation with him. And we mentioned that we bring this before you, and that's ultimately you guys' decisions.
yeah, we mentioned to Randy, it's not our place to approve that either way. It has to go to you guys. So they
So
asked.
Gage, they've asked for some kind of relief on these fees.
Oh, did I give you one? Oh, I did.
Yeah, better give Gage one of these.
What,
Here you go.
what fees are we talking about?
Roadways and storm drain impact fee. This is for West Warren,
That's the
Warren
total down there.
Water Improvement District. They just built a
Hear that
accessory
sucking
storage
sound?
building.
That's them trying to get their breath back when they seen it.
Wow. So this is dealing with the irrigation, West Warren Water.
They're, yeah, culinary water.
They're culinary
Was
water
this culinary
provider.
water?
Yeah,
And I believe currently they've kind of been using a storage barn facility on
Ah.
Randy's property himself.
Yeah, it's his own personal. He's trying to help the district.
Yeah,
That's
and
all
he's-
this stuff.
It's
So
a
he's-
3,000 square foot building and 7,700 square foot of asphalt. And they don't want to pay that.
4,700, total is 7,700. Anyways,
So it's about a $9,000 bill.
yeah,
That's
almost,
right.
yeah, almost
That's right.
10, 97.
Almost 10, 9,700.
Almost 10, yeah.
Mhm.
And they think that because they're a government agency, they deserve a cut.
Okay.
How many got,
I'm sorry, that was a slam. I admit it
when
too.
we do it for one, are we willing to do it for others? Have we done this in the past?
Yeah, we reduced the storage units. They came in, they provided a study.
Yeah, this isn't the first time we've been asked it. We've actually reduced that.
Well, in fact, that's what I'm saying is if we keep reducing, why would we change our fees?
Well, it's not, it's like Tucker mentioned, we only have 3 broad categories. We don't have a governmental service provider with little public interaction or something like
I
that.
don't know.
So we just have to say it's commercial, but it's not really commercial.
Yeah, I'd like to have a category.
Yeah.
To me, a water district's completely different than a private enterprise. Because at the end of the day, what we're doing is we're raising the fees to those water users.
Yeah.
directly or indirectly, however you want to
The
look at
fact
it.
they represent 1,000 water users, they probably have more ability to pay.
Well, yeah, you can look at it that way too, but I guess I go back to where we've done that for private. I don't mind giving them some break. I don't know, you know. I would either that or we're charging too, and I kind of agree with Chair Jenkins here. Maybe we ought to look at those fees that if they make sense or not.
So commissioners, just to let you know, I mean, tomorrow we actually have the contract coming before you in commission meeting for Zion's public finance. to actually do our
Recommendation
update
on
of our
fees.
impact.
What do they say?
So they're gonna start the study too.
Oh, they're gonna
to do
start the
that.
study.
It won't be
Okay,
done
there we go.
until probably like.
So now we'll
by the
know.
First of the year. so I
Yeah,
believe.
probably
So
December,
it'll take some
January.
time.
I suspect they're gonna say we're a little low, need to raise.
Maybe.
I think you're right.
More likely.
Do you?
Well, hopefully what we include is that instead of just having these broad categories of commercial building permit or single dwelling and residential, whatever it is that we have, we break it down into a by use thing and have some kind of formula.
And well, I'd like to take a look at those fees, but I think we should have different categories. I mean, just be, all commercials, not all commercial.
Correct.
And so that's where I'm headed with this. Now, whether we want to give them a break or not, I can go either way.
Of course, one's a storm drain fee, and that's a hard service.
Yeah.
That's pretty much black and white,
That's right.
tar and not.
That's right.
Well, the other one is and that's the roof of the building. Well, the other was based on the score for the building. Those are pretty plain and simple.
Well, the storm drain, I agree with. The roadways, how much impact does that building gonna have on roadways?
Well, they base that on traffic coming in and out of the building, right?
Yeah,
Down the road.
and that's where I think it's hard to say that they're really having $7,000 worth of impact for an
That's-
operator and a secretary.
That's what I look at. They're gonna have what, 2 people go into that office? It's not gonna be like a commercial enterprise where you're gonna have 40 or 50 cars a day.
So Randy's looking at this
I,
primarily from where you're talking about, Commissioner Farrar. They're trying to do this for the most economical way to save their
So
taxpayers.
they don't have
as
to
much.
pass the tax
Yeah.
on to the people.
Yeah,
that
that's
are
right.
out there.
yeah.
So they're hoping to minimize those costs as much as they can.
I'm just looking at it,
But-
if the storm impact, I mean, you can justify that. It's hard surface, they gotta deal with the roadway. I can't justify that because you're not gonna have more than the 2 people that currently work there go in and out of that roadway. That's a pretty heavy, fee for 2 people. So,
Any suggestions on how to go back to them and ask them?
So do you want to make a motion to change it?
what did we do before on the,
With the storage units, they came up, they used the traffic.
They use the trip
manual.
generation manual to justify how many trips were actually generated into and out of the facility.
And that's that's the science behind the figure.
Yeah.
That's right.
well,
That's right.
so I would say, I'd make a proposal, we look at that same study
Okay.
and determine the trips in and out and then adjust it whatever that study said.
So since they're making the request, we put the ball back in their court
Yeah.
to help them
Yeah.
through that process and come up with some
I
ideas.
don't have a problem with that. Say,
I'd
Joe?
make- Yeah.
You wanna plain
Yeah,
simple
I'm good
number?
with
Per ordinance.
I'll
we're
make, Mr.
technically-
Chair, I'd like to make the
Wait.
motion.
We're supposed to have them truthfully, if you guys are gonna adjust the impact fee and not just waive it, you do actually need their justification and some sort of study or something from them saying this is why we need the impact fee to be X amount of dollars.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that they provide us the information to see if it's worthy to reduce those fees. So we have some kind of justifiable amount. I don't have any problem with the storm drain impact fee as was previously discussed. But the roadway impact fee, I'd like to see the justification.
Well, I don't know if we need a motion for that. Just
We're just gonna ask them to do their study, come back to.
go back, and tell them to do their stuff.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
And just
I
so you
should
know,
withdraw my motion.
Good motion, though.
we have let them move forward
Yeah.
with the building permit while this discussion is going on.
Ah, jeez.
But before final occupancy,
Yeah,
they'll have to
but
have.
before they
they'll
can
have to have
occupy,
paid
they've
whatever
gotta
they
get this
come
all
up
taken
with.
care of.
Did we allow the others to do that?
We did.
Oh.
We let the storage units move forward.
Okay, all right.
We gave them a pretty good break, as I remember.
So the storage units, they came up with a number, it was actually pretty low, and then you guys ended up going $1,000 per 1,000 square foot. So they came with a study and we said, no, it's too low, and you guys kind of met in the middle between
Yeah.
industrial and whatever they had.
But they still came with the study.
But they still. came
Or
with the
I kind
study.
of want to do that now, but Liam just said we can't do that.
I think we gotta have something. coming
Something from them.
Something from them.
Yep, something from them.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's,
I was trying to make sure we don't
Hey.
get in trouble.
Put it on.
How do you do that? I guess.
Manage your
All right, we'll go from there then, Tucker.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
we expect to hear back from you.
I'll reach out to them and have them.
All right,
for us.
2:30, we're a little early. In fact, I want to take a break.
wow, motion to
Wow.
Saunders for 15 minutes.
Second?
Aye, all in favor.
All right.
Aye. Back in 15 minutes.
We got a few people on, my name's Sharon.
That's the guy that was.
It was? Well, he's a local guy, isn't he?
It's horrible.
All right, we're gonna
Hey,
call this meeting
what's
back to order. It's the 2:30 session. We're adjourned here for just a few minutes, and now we're back in session. So this is a discussion regarding impact fees for stormwater. Vaquero Village Body Politic. Chad Meyerhofer.
Yeah, so commissioners, if it's all right, I'd like to start with the body politic. I think it'll be really pretty quick. So these are the meetings from back in March that we met with Jan, with Vaquero Village of being the body politic on that on-site sewer system for that development. And at that time, you can see where I put the star. Fortunately, I highlighted the wrong sentence, but so put a star up there where Commissioner Harvey
He's a
stated,
star.
consider having that sewer system and being the body politic over it. But at that time, I know also we were talking about a lot more sewer systems and different things going on. So I wanted to reiterate this, make sure that we're still on board with being this body politic for this system. And the state's looking for a letter from us so they can start the review process. So.
Okay, you gotta start over on the whole thing.
Okay.
I'm not sure where we're even talking.
Okay.
So let's.
I don't
We're at
remember.
West
Hold
12th.
on, just let Chad keep going.
Okay, so Vaquero Village is on 12th Street, about 7,500 west on the
Okay, so
north
that's
side.
Pat Lynch's on the north side.
Yeah, so Pat Burns is the, or with Link Construction is the developer on this, and
Oh, yeah,
phase,
Pat Burns. I said
Was that different than
I'm sorry.
Carroll Village?
Vaquero Village is, there's phase 1 and phase 2. So phase 1 is installed and there's homes built on it with
Right,
individual
and it's
systems on
done.
it. Yep.
Yeah.
Phase 2 is immediately adjacent to it to the north.
Right,
And it came through, and someone can probably speak a little bit more to this, but it didn't perk for, or the groundwater was too high for
I remember.
individual systems. And so there was an area on the site that would, it was pretty tight, but it would meet the criteria to do an on-site system. And so the only thing that's needed there is a body politic or a district to be over that system. And so Pat requested for the commission or the county to be that body politic back in March, and we kind of we're kind of saying yes, but at that time we were also assuming or figuring that there was going to be a sewer system coming in really quickly, that he would get this as being the body politic, but he eventually would go that other route with the other sewer system. So,
Well, the key word there is quickly. May happen, but it probably won't be quickly.
so talk to me about this whole thing, Chad. He is at 7,500 west, the back of his property, who comes out on that road. And in fact, that's not true. It's further west than that.
Warren
So
Canal.
71.
So
71
right
hundred
across
Yeah.
from West
park?
Warren Park.
Yeah.
The park
Good
and
reference.
Reach right there.
Yeah, isn't that road 75 next to it?
71.
71,
Yeah.
okay. And then his property is like a big L. The first phase goes in like this, the second phase is a little more on the end and it goes way out to the west.
That's right.
Doesn't it border a piece of property on the road on the west?
That would be 7,500.
That would be 7,500, okay.
Does it go all the way to
I
7?
think there's multiple parcels
Yeah,
in
I think
between his and that. I know that we've never really discussed development of that full L all the way to 7,500.
Huh, I
know
kind of
there's a
thought phase
property
2 went all the
line.
way.
that we've
I
looked
think it
at.
borders the Warren Canal on the very north side. and
I'll
that's
know here in just a
Yeah, the
second.
canal-
The west side is what I worry about, not the north.
West
The
side.
west.
I think there's still another large parcel before 75. but I forget.
And how many lots is he planning on putting in there?
15 is what I think I have written down.
15,
Mhm.
so
I'd
they're
say
acre
17
lots.
at one point, but
So I think he's doing a cluster subdivision, which he might get a few more than 1 acre lots total with the cluster with bonus densities and things like that.
if you guys would like, that's the last copy I believe I had. So there might be some changes, but that's what.
So this is phase 2.
Phase 2. Yep.
Okay. You got some open space there.
Mhm.
I kind of thought that property went that way too.
That's what
I
I
guess
thought.
I was wrong.
I know he's had talks of trying
You wanna see
to
that?
acquire that property, but I don't know if he's.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So does he have a system designed?
Yes, yes. So just
I
to-
remember this.
in the briefest summary, it seemed like last year, well, it feels like it's been more than a year ago. So let's say the last 2 years. He had purchased that property. Unfortunately, he was unaware that in 2017, we did water table monitoring. And when we did it really located for each individual home to be evaluated for its own system, just like the first phase, which
Yeah.
really means each lot has to pass, right? The determination that came away from that in 2017 was they could have only developed maybe 2 lots of the whole phase because the rest of it just didn't maintain a foot to groundwater. So after the last discussion in the commission meeting, and I don't know if that's the only one you guys have had.
The last one that we had
referenced.
really referenced on this was the March
Yeah.
of this year.
So in between that meeting and current date, he did a complete round of water table monitoring. And we did find that the water table towards the west was quite a bit lower than it was in the east.
Can I borrow your mouse, Commissioner, and I'll pull Gizmo up and tell you that answer your question. Thank you.
Yep.
So we're the body of politic on phase 1, right?
We are not. They have individual systems there, so.
Oh,
Yep. So it's not required for those.
Just as some of the conversation that we did have as far as this, we would have a,
so now instead of 6 systems, we're gonna have 7 we'll be playing with.
and this, we kind of spoke to the aspect of having an agreement with him that he would be required to connect to a sewer system when it comes in the vicinity. And then the second thing is requiring him to hire a service provider to actually maintain it where we wouldn't maintain it. And then they would submit the information to us to submit to the department.
Yeah, but if we're doing it on the 6, why can't we do it on his? I mean, fair is fair, right?
We can.
I believe you're correct, Chad. As I zoomed in, I was having the same problem. I thought it was my phone.
I think that's the border,
The
right?
border is right about
Right,
here.
and see, I thought that went all the way. I
I
was
did
wrong.
too. And so this piece right here is a different ownership than,
And that.
oh, now it wants to talk to me, huh?
Hello?
Right?
Tell you what, buddy,
Come on,
you agree?
here we go.
Work with me.
It's struggling today.
Or 7,500. That'd sure be nice if we could just go from there to 83, 8 blocks.
Right.
And put that, and they hook right to,
Make a lot of sense.
hook right to LMSA.
Yeah. I agree.
Sure would. Makes good sense.
Yeah, Gizmo's struggling, but you're correct, Commissioner. There is a boundary right here. It looks like a different land ownership. So if that ever pulls up. But it does not want to. I don't know what to do. I thought this would help. I'm slowing things down. Sorry about that.
Is that a road to the north?
It's the canal.
Or is that a canal?
You're
That's the
talking,
canal.
7,500.
oh,
Is that a
so
road right there? Or
right,
is that a canal?
this is the canal.
Yeah, but is that a road going to
75
the canal?
continues.
75 does cross it and
So
it
that is a
continues
road.
north up
Dirt road, a
to,
service road, looks like.
to here. It intersects
Yeah.
with that road right
It's a
there.
service road, right?
Well, it's a county road.
That's kind
Yeah,
of,
but what there is, that's a canal right there. That dark spot is a canal.
Yeah.
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 In fact, when you get down to here, that canal's up in the air,
It
like
is.
5 or 6 feet. It's way
At
up.
least, yeah, it's up there.
I remember
ways.
that now.
And that's right, that kind of runs along the front of
Yeah,
Randy
that's
Marriott's
right.
there.
Then Randy's on the north.
Yeah.
That's Randy's operation.
Yep.
That is correct. But for whatever reason, the parcel lines ownership are not pulling up and it's struggling. So I apologize. This didn't help the situation.
So just move that. So can you get 8,300 in the same view with this?
Probably close, Commissioner.
83 right there.
There you go.
There it is. Well, 83 is where we wanted that road to go through. And if this outfit comes in and buys the whole thing, it won't. Move that up just a hair.
You got it.
Just a hair.
About there.
Well, you can see his property line, so if that's the case, we'd want that lift station to be right there. And that still works. The distance is minimal, but the point is from there to where he is, man, we're only talking, you know, if he could come along this line down, geez, look at that. That's only 8 blocks. Well, that's even less than the 8 blocks. That's probably 6 blocks.
That's right there.
When I
Well,
was-
LMSA's got $5 million, Gage.
I would assume if it gets that close that he would much rather spend the money to connect to that than to install this on-site system. Yeah.
I would agree. I think probably ballpark, he's looking at 200,000 for a community system. I've seen one put in for about 100,000, but that was for a very, very small community. And I think everybody cut their costs on that to try to help out. And it was an existing one in the canyon. So I would think that he's between 200,000 and 300,000. There is also a requirement that if he's within 300 feet times the number of watts, he would have to connect if it was available at the
It
time.
was
of
available now,
plat.
which is
Exactly.
not, but yeah.
Exactly.
Well, this is something we'd have to play around with, Gage, because I suspect really, they've got 10 million, 5 from us and 5 from the state. But I'm not sure we'd want to commit our 5 to this. I don't know what you're thinking, if this fulfills or starts to fulfill what we were thinking. See what I mean?
The 8,300 makes perfect sense. I mean,
It does.
and obviously what the state wants to see is they want to see some activity out there in the way of, you know, spending that dollars for jobs, which I don't blame them for. So, you know, and whether we could pull the trigger, it's kind of like what we talked about with Legacy the other day. Right now, that we can show that we've got demand in the future, but we can't show it right now. So.
But
that's kind of the issue.
From a point of view of the district, and their goal is to provide sewage services to the district.
Yeah.
Well, those people out there are, they're there, ready to go. And if they've got $10 million to run to start that line out, or 5, say they just use the state's 5.
So we should probably get something out of Little Mountain Water and Sewer to take to the state and say, hey, we're ready to serve this area.
Right.
I think it's got to come from Little Mountain.
That's what maybe.
Where's the
Stephanie
5
can get
million
that.
at today? Wasn't it at DEQ?
Yep, maybe DEQ.
It'd probably help him.
So it'd be nice to start at least having that discussion, but Little, you know, well, you know, the board at Little Mountain,
I do.
they're a little slow on.
Well, the board, they're changing right now. What's his name? Just resigned, and the other guy, Kent, is done at the end of the year.
Yeah, that's my point. To get any clear decisions out of them is hard right now.
And at the end of the year, I'm done.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah,
So 3 of the 5 are gone
yeah.
in the next 5 months.
And we've got to have something from that board because they're going to be the district, they're going to be the body politic.
Gosh dang, we really need something done before
So
then.
tell me how that works. Yeah.
Well, what you do is you expand the area, then you can get more members to come in, potential members.
Well, we got plenty of people out there. They just won't serve.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe. you
That
get
Glen
somebody-
Barrel, that's along here. He's an old time.
Barrel's been there a long time.
What if he'd serve?
What about Tom Close?
Well, yeah, Tom's right there. He's right squarely in the middle of it.
That's what I'm just trying to find you people. We're talking sewer, you might be able to get Randy Giordano.
Randy might do it.
Tom is right there.
Yeah. Barnum
Barnuminium. My daughter out there, she won't serve.
Yeah, why won't, I thought you talked her into it.
I had her talked into it one time, but she says now, she says, everybody will hate me. Well, that's true. Boy, it's such a hot topic out there. Nobody wants to serve.
So I guess with this item, do you want us to get back with the developer and have him kind of pursue that as an option of looking to the Little Mountain as being the body politic or servicing them?
Well, I think it's giving the option, but you know, we can't give him any hard deadline, hard dates. I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't want him thinking, hey, we're gonna be able to pull the rabbit out of the hat and get this thing done in the next 6 to 12 months, because that's probably not gonna happen.
Well, I suspect what has to happen here is we have to have, we gotta have somebody, do a study or not, well, it's gotta be pre-engineered, or somebody could do some engineering on it. You know, the problem is LMSA doesn't have any money.
No.
In their account, they've got maybe $10,000. So for them to have some pre-engineering, it takes every cent they got.
When we get Chris and Stephanie in the room, this, I think it's this
tomorrow, isn't it? Or
tomorrow.
Wednesday?
Anyway, one of these days, we should have this discussion with Chris and Stephanie. And then have them go to this, because they're both the ones working with the state. And say, exactly what do we have to provide to get this thing going?
Yeah, we gotta have some pre-engineering, I think, and that's what he's talking about, but there's no food or no money to do it.
Or, Gary?
Yes, sir.
That strip of ground right there. Is
Yeah.
that a right of way?
It's an open space parcel, I believe. for
Yeah,
the
it was open space
cluster
from the first phase that was kind of left over that runs along the back of it.
So is that meant to be a right of way for
I
sewer?
don't think so. I think
No,
they have like a pathway. or
Yeah, the
something like
original
that on
intent
that,
was
but
for like a cattle
I don't see
grazing.
why you couldn't run an
Yeah.
easement through the open space for the sewer line though.
I think the original intent was to use this space north, oh, God, I screwed it up now. But to use the space north of it where the new phase was, the original intent was for that to be kind
Oh,
of,
where'd you just go? I've lost
I
you.
shifted it
Just-
and it moved, the parcel lines didn't move with it. But basically the next phase, that's now phase 2, was originally intended to just be open space for agricultural use. And cattle, that was a way for
Oh,
cattle
that's
to
it
get
right
out of it.
there.
Yeah,
Okay, it moved, but it's still there.
just shifted just a touch. There you go.
So would it be possible to get that out and run it along there? See what I mean? If you could do that, you could pick up, well, you could easily pick up this half of the road, those 4 you struggle with. But then you could go out and pick up that whole thing. Or you could just go over and down. That's pretty easy too.
Yeah. Running it straight south through that open space easement, Commissioner, is great until you get to right here.
Right.
And then you'd have to work out some agreement with the two landowners here to get out to 12th Street.
Yeah, I agree you would.
Yeah.
Or like you said, you run it along this boundary over to 7,500 and then down to 12th. But this would be a much shorter agreement. Or if the engineering works and the elevations work, maybe you could push it over here and along the backs of the homes of the subdivision too. But that would require signatures from those homes on this side of the road as well too.
Or running it in the right away.
Or run it out to the road and then out, yeah. And we just finished paving to right about here. So they would have to go right through our new asphalt, but, or off to the side of it.
Well, but you're close enough there. But that's not-
We could redo it. Yeah, you're right.
So if we end up selling that whole piece of property or developing that whole thing, then it makes more sense for that to be right here. a lift station.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it could be right in front. Well, although these folks coming under the track are gonna have to come up and along that. So they-
Well, no, it wasn't the intent to bring 8,300
Well,
down
it
to the
was,
track.
but this new outfit needs a little more property, and they don't want that
Oh.
road to go through. They want to develop that whole thing.
Sorry, I wasn't up to speed on that.
Yeah, well, it's just happened.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they needed a little more. The old one was like 150 acres. These guys are close to 200.
Yeah,
Okay.
they need the full, they need that property line right there. if they-
Right.
If they come
Gotcha.
about.
Gotcha.
So then we can't do that. But it doesn't matter, whether we come through at 83 or whether we come through there. It's
Either one works.
a quarter of a block,
Mhm.
you know, a few hundred yards. Yeah, so I'm with Gage. I don't think that matters at all.
Could you shift the lift station to the north side of the road too? Does it have to be on the south?
No, we can shift it to the north.
I don't know why.
Well, so what, let's try to address the question at hand. Where was it? Where we began? What are you trying?
Are we still willing to be,
Are we willing to be the body politic for an on-site system for the Vaquero subdivision phase 2? And we could do that through agreement to require them to hook up to a sewer system if it comes within a certain distance.
Could we transfer it later to LMSA?
I think we could put anything into the agreement.
I'd be willing to do it now and then do it, then transfer it.
Yeah, I think we just give him I don't see any problem, must be in the body politic, give him his options. He can decide if he wants to,
That's what I'm thinking.
you know,
I
bet
gotta
on,
get some more
bet on the
nice-
system coming through or spend 200, 300,000 now.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, I can tell you if we have LMSA or try to figure out a way we can get some money into that LMSA
So,
so we can do
Well,
that study.
and right now we'll look at just,
But we've got 5 from the county and 5 from the state, so they got 5 million that are committed to them, but they're committed for a project.
Project. In order to do the project, you have to have the pre-engineering. In order to do the pre-engineering, you have to have money.
Oh, I can't tell you exactly how much money they have in that account.
Did
It's
we
been a long
not,
time since
did we not put aside some funding in ARPA to do that study? For those,
Say, why couldn't we use some ARPA? If we committed X number
I
of
don't
dollars from
remember.
ARPA,
I just don't remember, Sean.
thought we had something.
that's probably a question for Scott.
Yeah,
Clark,
we could ask Scott. We could pull that up.
Scott or John.
I think we'll move forward with this. Then I'll get the letter up to you, Commissioner Jenkins, to sign to get to the state, and then we'll work on an agreement between us and the developer, which we can,
Yeah.
do all those fine
Yeah,
details. So,
Yeah, right now, we just can't commit to anything other
Yeah.
than, hey, make your choice.
all right, well, I got a second item. I don't know if you want to start it, if you want to try to stay more on schedule, or if you
Hold
want
on
me
a
to
second.
brief you real quickly on it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. 25 connections to that corner. What's the connection fee?
Right now at Central Luber, we're a little over 2,500, I believe. Or
Who's
so.
got a calculator? What's 25 times 25 times 25?
You think it would be easy math, but I can't do it in my head.
625?
So 625,000. Well, man, there's another
Yeah,
2/3 of a million.
you use 25. What's LMSA charging now? They charging
It's
25?
only six-
I think they've not had a connection since Rob Howard.
Well, that's what I want.
He's the only one, and I think we charged him $7,500.
That's a commercial.
25 times 2,500.
Oh, Commissioner, I think you added one too many decimal places to that.
So it's
25 times 2,500
Huh?
is 62,000.
62,000.
Geez. That's no
You
good.
can make a connection fee, I think, whatever you want, going off of
Well,
the
yeah.
right data.
Then if they turn the one up that road, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more they pick up. And go along there to hits that. I don't know. You can see, if they put one lift station there, put the other one or there, and the other one right here at 7,500, then they could go south and pick those up. Well, you can see Gage, and if they go to there, and up. I don't know how many homes there, but there's about 8 or 10 there. I suspect they'd all connect.
Yeah, you're right. And the opposite side of the road would have, I mean, you have a lot of potential for building. I mean, I know you guys are talking about impact fees, but there's quite a bit of property across the street that would be easily buildable.
Yeah.
And similar to the one adjacent to Vaquero, that's
Yeah.
gonna be a very
That
difficult
would-
property, if not impossible to develop unless there's sewer. And if there's sewer,
Yeah.
then that becomes.
That's a
property worth
very
ton of
poor,
money.
that, as I recall, that's not really a good ag piece. Isn't that just salt grass?
I would
and-
say it sure looks like
And,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of it's pretty
Well,
outlined.
Go that way.
Yeah.
Whoever's right.
To the east. This
And
way.
so, this is Randy's piece here,
Yep.
Mhm.
and he'd like to develop that at some point in time, obviously. There's, there's a few homes down on 6,700 too, that would connect.
Yeah.
So I think it's feasible, probably anywhere from 5,900 west, you've got a good capability for connections.
Yeah, I would agree. We did a lot of water.
Yeah, but
table
100 or 150,000, it's just not enough.
To cover a study.
Well, it would cover the study, but it's not enough to, what I'm trying to do is add a lot of money to the 10 million. And we'll add 100 or 120,000. It's just
Yeah,
not a big number.
But I wonder what a study would cost. I mean, what would a study be, Gary? I guess we need to find out what the state.
Yeah.
We need to find out what the state center requires to provide.
Well, this is a small,
I mean, you're only
actually,
doing
the state doesn't require us
feasibility
to do anything.
30%.
Oh, for the money.
For the money.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think about
No.
that.
So you might be.
I can
into
say, we don't
50,
have to
60
do
grand
anything
probably.
from the state
No.
of Utah. This is
I'm
in
just
the
talking about that.
district.
I'm just talking about having them break out the money for us.
Yeah,
Gotta have a project. In order to have a project, gotta have a study. In order to have a study, gotta have money.
How much money, Harlan? My question.
We're guessing probably 50 grand or less to do a study on.
oh, come
feasibility.
on. Well, if it's just a study to run sewer up the road, I think for $3,000 or $4,000. you
It
could
all
get that
depends on
done.
how much detail you want to put in.
It's a matter of
right?
detail. Yeah, I agree.
So.
Wow.
Well,
Keep in mind how flat it is out there, Commissioner. You're first
It
and
is
familiar
flat.
with it. And that's
I'm
gonna
very
be a little
familiar with that.
tricky once you're.
what slope there is out there, well, actually, in this case, we're going with the slope.
Yeah. Because there isn't a whole lot as you head west.
No.
In fact, just down the road, I can show you a ditch that runs, the same ditch flows east and
No
west.
retention basins or?
Basements.
So
Oh, not that I know of, but
anyway,
So I guess the answer to the question is yes.
we're
We'll
still
do
there.
it. That solves that.
Yeah.
But before he actually jumps into this, we'd love to have a conversation with him about him connecting.
Yeah, we'll get with him on it and
So Gage, I think we need to get together. Number one, we got to get somebody appointed to that district.
Yeah,
And I've been working on it. It's not like I've been sitting on my thumbs. I just haven't been working real hard.
we got to come up with somebody, because we got one vacancy right now,
Mhm.
soon to be two. Right? Well, soon to be three.
Yeah, soon to be 3.
Yeah.
So that Taylor out there, the old state president, the guy's losing his sight. What was his name? Something Taylor. He lives on 7,500 just across the tracks. Yeah, I forget his name now. I think he's in the district. He'd probably serve.
Well, you got the Penrods out there. I wonder if any of those would serve. You want to be kind of careful that way, but
You want me to call Tom?
They live out there?
Penrods live right across from, on 6,700 there, yeah.
Well, 6,700, that's not in the district.
How far, I thought it went up to 6,700.
No, just on the north side. On the south side, it doesn't.
Oh,
Yeah, Penrods are all on the south side.
Penrods are right here somewhere.
Yep.
Well, I'll have to go get that gauge to see exactly where it goes to. On the north side, it goes up by Randy's up in there. a
I
little.
thought it kind of swung up through
It
here.
does, but on the south, it doesn't.
That's
And I
crazy.
don't remember if it took in part of that road or not. I just don't remember. It's been so long.
It's time to have that discussion.
You've got all the Davises that live along here. in
I've
those-
got an employee that lives right there, Brad Davis. And I asked him if he'd be on it. He thought about that for a second and he says, not only no, but hell no.
He didn't want to do it, huh?
He says, everybody in town would hate me if I served on that board.
He wants to do it.
Maybe about your buddy Gary Davis?
If we can switch gears real quickly, if I can just take maybe 5 minutes.
Talk to me about.
What else you got
An
here?
idea, so this is a development, it's on 1800 South. It's about 3900 West, so I don't know if you remember Commissioner Jenkins, when the road kind of fell just there by Halcyon Estates on 1800 with all the school trucks going to the school. This is just back to the east of that on 1800.
Oh, yeah.
On top of the
We
old.
went out and walked along that
Yeah,
road.
you
You
walked
could
along
see
that.
where cement was under, where it
That's
was.
right.
We're right over and then kind of went like that.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So this development right here that you're looking at is the development it's got an open ditch right along there. And they're bringing that development in and we're asking them to pipe that with a 48-inch pipe. And technically they probably only need about an 18-inch pipe. So it comes down to our famous discussion on what we just got done with impact fees and if we'd be willing to help do that upgrade from the 18 to a 48-inch with impact fees. And so that's kind of the
Yeah,
question.
but this is with money that we've got in the account.
Correct.
This is actually what it was designed for.
That's right.
So their development requires 18, we require 42. And you wanna know if we'll pay the difference between the 18 and 42.
Correct.
So that's what I think we ought to do. We ought to pay for the material. They ought to pay the labor, because they're putting the labor in anyway.
Here's you an idea of what those materials are gonna cost. So right there, they gave us a bid on it. And I think the difference in those two costs between the 18 and the 48 is about 146,000, and that's material cost.
Yeah, that's not just material, that's labor too, isn't it?
No, those are just materials right there. It's just the bid from Amcor as far as materials on it.
Oh, that's okay.
Keep in mind, going from the installation, Gary can maybe elaborate.
You're
a
telling
little
me
bit more.
48-inch pipe is $123 frickin' a foot?
That's
That's
yes,
not
sir,
a
we
piece,
are.
that's a foot.
Yes,
Yes,
the
sir.
quote that they gave us.
Wow, that's increased a little bit, hasn't it?
Welcome to 2022.
Dude, 18-inch
Short-
pipe is $26 a foot?
$145,000 difference.
Yeah, it's significant.
Yeah, but the price per foot is what blows me away. This.
Yeah, but that's
this
what
is
I'm
huge.
looking to know.
When you install it too, when you're looking at installing 48-inch, there's a lot more labor that goes into installing that as well. You know, you're looking at equipment that can actually lift it up or getting cranes out there to crane it in. So keep that in mind as well.
Oh, come on, track hoe can pick up a stick of 48-inch pipe.
Got the right size track hole.
If you got the big enough hole, maybe.
Come on.
The
doesn't
hose
weigh
we
that
have
much.
wouldn't do it.
Come on.
I've given Joe the same attitude and they assure me that our equipment would not move a 48.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah, we don't have big enough equipment. We don't.
Oh, come on. These guys are wimpos.
If
Not the guys, their
You
equipment.
would like to fund us some money to buy some heavier equipment.
Actually, I would. The county ought to have the ability to put in a 48-inch piece of pipe.
It's pretty big
Of course,
pipe.
these two can worry about that. I'll be going.
Oh, come on, quit laming your duck here, let's go.
Well, it's a fact. We should have a piece big enough to.
I don't- listen, I don't disagree.
Pipe. All right, well, if this is material only, I'm all for paying that.
Okay.
What do you think? Art?
Material only, I'd be okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with that too.
Yeah. So you've got our okay to pay the difference.
Boy, this sewers cost a lot of money.
It does cost a lot of money.
Yeah, everything costs so much more, just like you're getting at, you know.
Yeah.
if You look at what it cost 3-5 years ago and
Well,
it seemed
he's
like a lot of money, but.
the guy's still getting hung up for labor, so he's still eating labor on this. We're paying for all the upgrade, so that's more than fair.
It is.
Mhm.
So I agree with that. Yeah, you got my lesson.
Okay,
Sounds good.
perfect. Thanks,
Appreciate it.
gentlemen.
Commissioners.
All right.
Appreciate
Just
your
like
time.
that,
See how easy we are to get rid of?
That's really
Just like
effective.
that.
Oh, gee, come on now. Give him credit, but not that much credit.
You notice
Thanks,
she
Jack.
focused on
Well, I've
chat.
got to jump on the statewide growth committee meeting here for the next hour.
Commissioners, do you have,
You've got the sheriff.
you have 30 seconds?
Yeah, all right.
Yep.
Just so you know.
Gage, you want you,
30
Look at that.
seconds here. This is on your agenda tomorrow. This is a piece of property in Ogden City.
Oh, okay.
So the people, 452, right there. They,
Yeah, we've looked at this piece before.
yes, so the people at 3064, they came in our office on Friday and they said, wait a minute, we've been maintaining that lot and cleaning it for 25 years. We want to buy the whole thing. And we said, sorry, we can sell you that little skinny piece, but the other people,
Yeah.
we're gonna split it in half essentially. Where that,
452.
yeah. So do you want us to keep it the way I've drawn that line here? Or do you want to reconsider and sell the one or the other? I guess that's the
Does the
question.
guy at 452 want it?
The guy at 452, he just wants, we just told him we'd give him that portion.
Yeah.
But these guys came in and they want the whole thing.
Which guys?
The
It's 3064.
3064.
Well, it makes sense to split it down the property.
We
Well, it
agree.
does.
We agree. We just want to
And
bring
if
that
the
one more
guy-
time.
Yeah,
At 452 wants it,
Then you can buy it from them.
right, and I understand, no.
Oh, okay.
If the guy at 452 wants it, he has the ability to take his part now,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's fair's fair, right?
Okay. I agree with
And
you.
I understand the guy's mad because he said, look, we've been maintaining it,
Right.
cutting the lawn,
well,
his life.
Okay. Yep. We
You
agree.
could have come in and petitioned for it years ago.
He says back when Nate Pierce was here, he did, and they told him they would sell it. They never did. And
I'd say
now
take it
it's-
down the property line.
Okay.
I'm saying,
I'd like to hear a little more from him than Nate Pierce if we made a mistake.
Well, he doesn't have any documentation.
Well, then, okay,
So,
property line.
Did you hear me, Scott? I gotta jump
Yeah.
off the state here.
okay, see ya.
thank you. Appreciate it.
These guys will take good care of you. How you doing?
All right, Sheriff, meeting's yours. Sheriff, Arbon is here for a 3 o'clock session. He brought help with him today.
Yes, sir. Commissioners,
Oh, here we go.
Here we go.
this is good. So it's time to renew the contracts with all the contract cities that we provide law enforcement services for. So, all of them
Got
have.
your boxing gloves on?
We're done with all that.
Yeah, we're done with that part.
Yeah, they've all signed.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah, we have signed contracts
That's
from
good.
all the cities. Every city has renewed for another 5 years. We did change in the previous agreement, it was for 5 years with an extension, but we changed a little bit of the language to the contract, so as opposed to just renewing it, we just wrote a new contract. And if you look, there's a summary on the first page. I also highlighted in the contract. So this is the same contract for every city. It's the same language for every city. And there's summary on the top of what we added. We added section 2.4, which adds an à la carte option for the contract cities, which basically means, and this was at their request, as we met with them, or a small contingent of them representing their interest. If they wanted more than what we were providing, if they said, hey, we want a full-time officer at our city offices Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, then they could do that in addition to this. So we added that. Section 2.4, we added 2.05, it clarifies the sheriff's office will participate in crime prevention programs to prevent crimes in residential and business areas. We currently are doing that, but there was no language in the agreement to provide that. So we added that language in there under 2.05. 11.02, we just added language, said the sheriff's office will provide an activity report to the contract cities. That language is a little bit more specific. That's something that we're currently doing. There just wasn't language in the contract, in the previous contract that stated that we would provide that. And then we added, it's under, the summary, I didn't add it. It's under 10, 10.01, just added a little bit of clarifying language of how the fees are calculated. Nothing changed in regard to the way we calculate those fees.
Really, after all that discussion.
Correct. We just clarified language in the
Well,
agreement.
That's what it takes. I understand.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with as many cities you are, and doing everything you're doing, this is as tough as any negotiation I expect that there is in the state of Utah.
Yeah.
When you look at 15 cities and the county and the sheriff department and putting it all together, this is tough.
Yeah, so I've got signed agreements from all of the cities, just need your approval to move it forward.
So, under this, the county's portion, this would be 1.623 off of sheet A, right?
Yeah,
Attached to
correct,
sheet A.
correct.
Yeah,
Yeah, attachment A, yep,
all right. And that represents a
the unincorporated.
23.36% increase.
Let's see.
Oh, we're the highest next to West Haven.
Unincorporated.
Of course, we're growing. I don't know what to do. See, we're at the very bottom
I see it.
Yeah.
of
We
that
had
top.
anyone, I don't think we had anyone that big. No, the percent
Go on,
change,
go on up.
the percent change is 6.71.
Okay, that's a
It- that-
percentage
the-
change.
the
Oh, I
the
see how you
percent
brought that
change-
line across.
The percent change from previous year was 6.71. And
I see that, but when you go up to the column on top of
Cost
it,
per
based
call.
on census, yeah, when you look at calls, anyway, we're at 23.36%.
Yeah, West Haven still got you by
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
correct.
A couple of percent almost. And is that just, what is that 23.36? What does that represent? On top it says calls/service.
So those are for that number, we pull all the calls for service. I believe this number doesn't represent traffic stops. And then that's in all of the unincorporated area.
Okay, but that doesn't necessarily equal an increase or not increase. What does
So-
that represent?
So what,
So the way, yeah, go ahead, Sheriff.
Commissioner, what it represents is, so it says call/service. This is the call/service total, everything up, and then what it's divided by each city representative. So of all the calls and service together, unincorporated has 23.36%.
Okay, so that is
Yeah.
the point. So of all
The
the
calls.
sheriffs that are on the road in trucks, we're using
23.36%.
Yeah, 23.36% of them, almost 25% of them.
And then the formula is 40% population, 60% calls for service.
Yeah,
So we have to go through the calls for service. That's that number.
for West Haven, they're just a little higher than this. Population, they're a little more. And service are just a little more. All right. Well, that seems to be fairly equitable. Barb, what do you think?
That is what it is. We've seen these for a lot of years. And it's hard for me to
Yeah.
believe still that, with the demographic that we're getting that many calls, but it is, I mean, you can't refute this, and so.
Well, you look at a town like Plain City, and Plain City's up now to,
Let's look at Plain City.
I think they're 7,600, something like that. And in fact, what is Plain City's population? Do you show it here?
Should be in there.
there. Plain City, 322,730.
Hold on, what do you mean 322?
Is that?
I don't think they're that, they gotta be around 6,000 or 7,000.
That's right.
That's
6 or 7,000. Yeah, I don't think you have the population listed here.
Population is not listed on this one.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, unless you could divide it out. Some
Right.
here you have the cost on the population, but we don't have it by.
Yeah, that's what that is.
Well, anyway, either way, when I look at Plain City and look at their bill at 591,000, so 600,000. And, if they were to do this on their own, that'd be 3 policemen and cars and,
They can't do,
they
have
do
full-time service.
24/7. It'd take 3 to get 24/7. And,
Can't do it with 3.
can you?
So this is what, for example, when I went to Perry City, this was their struggle. They had 3 full-time and 4 or 5 part-time. They wanted 24/7 service with a supervisor. So that
Yeah,
was,
Plus you got weekends. Yeah,
you got a
you're right.
detective and you gotta consider vacation, training, sick. And so it was,
Well, on weekends, you can only work 40 hours, or even if you work 50, it's overtime, but you got to cover weekends and, yeah, you're right.
yeah. So to have coverage without all the
So for
other,
Plain City 600, that's still a good deal. That's your point. That's still a good deal.
Perry City has what the minimum you need, and they have a 6,000 residents, and they have 7 total with a staff of a half-time secretary, and their bill is 1.1 or 1.2 million.
It was, is it now?
It's now. It would just hit the over million mark last year.
There's
It's a little over $1 million right now. And they pay less too.
Well,
So the Plain City population is in there. It's just because I printed it in color, it didn't print through. It's just under 8,000, 7,800.
Oh, yeah, you can barely see it.
You can barely see it. You can see there's a
oh,
population
under
column.
where it says US Census.
But yeah,
Oh,
Julie created this spreadsheet. She
you're
was
right.
mad at
It's so light, I can't read it.
it. It's just so light, you can't read it.
Well, anyways, still though, point is for 8,000 residents. You know, you look in there, you look at Far West and Hooper and, you know, we're all out there together. Marriott Slaterville. Where's Marriott Slaterville? I don't see them. on there.
MSL.
MSL, about right in the middle.
Oh, MSL, that's Marriott Slaterville. Judas, they're under 400,000. That's a steal for them.
Well, they only have 2,500 residents.
Yeah, they got all those businesses, they got all 12th Street. I suspect.
A lot of
you-
traffic.
Yeah, you spend a lot of time. You know, 12th Street, I'm shocked the amount of traffic on 12th Street these days. Just crazy. Well, there you go, guys. I don't know what to say. It is what it is. Yeah, you guys go through the process and you do it.
The
Good
percent-
work, good
the-
job.
The
Way to
percent
go.
change, the percent, I was
A
gonna
lot
have,
of work.
It is.
we've been trying to get on the agenda for a few weeks. The last contract expired at the end of June. I had Julie slated to come with me, but she was off today, so she couldn't come. She did all of the financial side of this. But if you look in the middle row, that percent change reflects the increase from last year. The highest is to Far West, 8.75%. Looks like the lowest is unincorporated. No,
Mary Slaterville's higher.
Huntsville, Hooper.
Where's it
Hooper,
looking
lowest-
at now?
The
Where?
percent change, right in the middle.
Oh, second,
Mary
okay,
Slaterville's
got
the
it.
highest.
I'm
That's
with
the,
it.
yeah, Marriott Slaterville was the biggest change at
Okay,
9.97%
8.75 Far West.
from last year, and then the smallest was Hooper at 6.2%. Most of that,
Is that growth?
most of that was salary.
Oh, was it?
Yep, a little bit of training, small fraction of training, but most of it was
Oh, salary.
salary increases.
So isn't there growth in here too? The fact they've grown as a population?
Growth is a part of that, correct?
Yeah.
The formula is
The
taken.
Plains
into
has
it.
grown a lot. Far West has grown a fair amount, but not the Plains, I think it's a little more. Yeah, Marriott Slaterville, 9.97. Wow. Well, okay. It's good. Good.
Yeah, we had a rough start, as you guys know, 7 or 8 months ago. There's one group that wanted to change the whole thing, and it was, so when they came and presented that idea to the others had nothing to do with it.
Well, didn't they like the way, they didn't like the way it was, the split was made, didn't they?
Well,
But
those
you
that
guys,
have,
you
those that,
guys are fairly economical here.
Well,
You've
they've been
taken,
consistent.
those that have higher calls of service don't want a formula that puts more
Right.
weight to the higher calls of
but you've
service.
done good. You've weighted population and you've weighted calls. And calls is part of it.
Yeah.
How much weight did you put on each? Did you split that 50-50?
No, it used to be 50-50. Starting last year, it went to a 60-40 split. So 60% calls for service, 40% population.
So you,
That's what-
those guys got.
That's
hit
what
just a little
created a
more.
little bit of the,
Disparity.
So unincorporated Washington Terrace and West Haven are ones that have more calls. So they don't want the higher call percentage cost towards calls. Where the other cities, they want it more population based, which favors them.
Yeah.
But when you have
Understand.
6 out of the 9 that want it towards population, and that's the vote, if you will, right?
Yeah.
That's what they want.
So where did the county, where are our highest calls? When you say that we had more of a call, that means we got to have.
Pine View and.
Recreation.
Yeah.
Oh, it's recreation
Recreation
areas.
related for unincorporated for sure.
That'd be summers. What about winters?
Again, a big part of it is recreation related. You've got.
So
ski
accidents.
resorts, Draw.
Up in the ski resorts and places like that.
You know, we really, for being
Well, that's true.
yeah, but here we go, where we got our citizens bear the burden.
They do, but I
Because we
suspect,
have these guests, and so
I
that's,
suspect a fair amount of that is accidents, right? People going to and from the resorts. Yeah. Yeah.
And you know that, I can't remember that it was a state parks or whatever did the survey on the license plates that came through. And most of our residents that come to Pineview are from Salt Lake County.
yeah.
Number 2 was Davis County.
I
And then
thought,
us.
last time I heard, I thought it was flipped. Davis first and Salt Lake second. You say it's Salt Lake now.
It was 3 years ago and it may have flew correct,
I
but
don't
it's
know.
not Weaver County.
Well, maybe, yeah, we were third, weren't we? Yeah.
I still think, Commissioner, that parking around Pineview is a way to fund.
Tell them the ticket stories.
I'm
Which one?
excited to hear that. 4th of July, you're gonna tell us?
4th of July, people were getting tickets and they didn't care. Because they'd rather take the ticket and leave their car there.
It's a parking fee,
Yeah.
right? So Kazi.
Oh, really? They've used that
Yeah.
in the parking.
Yeah.
This is exactly my point.
You go up to Kazi and hey, it's 25, what's the cost of the ticket? $25? Well, that's fine.
Yeah, they don't.
I can't
Care.
plan to pay a $20 parking fee, so give me the ticket.
Yeah, so they'll leave their car
You
there.
know, we were at Weaver Memorial 2-3 weeks prior to well, anyway, 4th of July. So anyway, we was up there then and I drove up to Causey. And we went up to the lookout first and I counted 84 boats on the lake. 84, not boats, paddleboards or canoes or something like that. And then we got in the car and drove up to the Causey Estates exit and turned around and come back. When I got to the Causey Estates exit, the water was there and all the way around there, they have paddle boards with the nose in the water and then the paddle board out. It's just shoulder to shoulder, all the way around. And I started counting them and, I just couldn't sit there in the middle of the road and count. But I estimated another 85 to 100 right there. I was shocked how many were up there, ready to go. And as we were leaving, 9 out of every 10 cars that went up that road were turned into Causey. So they were building as we left, not going down.
Well, Salt Lake and Davis has no recreation lakes.
Here we go. We've got to get a parking fee for those people. up
Seriously,
there.
they don't have any recreation lakes
Yeah.
unless you
We're
count Great
leaving
Salt
money
Lake.
on the table.
Yeah, I
If
agree.
they're willing to pay 20, 25, there we go. And then we make it free for our residents, or we give them an option for an annual pass. You show a property, you show your property ticket, you know your property deal.
For a
You
resident.
can,
a
yeah, you can
resident
buy an
pass.
annual pass. That's the only way you can get an annual pass. Deeply discounted opportunity. But all the rest, that's revenue that we can put back into up there.
So you've seen that little lake they created on the north side of Willard Bay?
In that little swimming area.
Yeah. So we're trying to buy that horseshoe pond that we have our stormwater come into out north right now. We can get that thing bought and that pond, the concept was if we bought that, we'd turn it over to Parks and Rec and let them do something like what was done out there.
Sure.
When I came home from Bear Lake Saturday, that place was just packed in there. Little tents up and people out on the water.
Horseshoe Pond?
No, on the,
Oh, that other.
that place just on the north side of Willard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good idea. All right, guys. Well, you've made your point. your presentation. We agree. Anything you'd like us to do?
I don't have
tomorrow.
anything.
Improve it. I don't know if it's gonna make tomorrow's because I didn't have the copies in there. It might not make it till next
Another
week.
week.
Okay, either way.
If we can get it on tomorrow, that'd be great, but
Or it won't. if you can't,
it won't be on there.
Has to be 24-hour notice.
Yeah, so it'll be next week.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Do you have
Appreciate
anything,
it.
anything for us? Do you have anything for us we can do for you?
I don't think.
How about this? When the deputy goes to the car, how's he doing with diction?
With what?
Diction. Speaking clearly, to be understood.
When he goes to the car.
Who are you talking?
You gotta give me,
Yeah, you
give us
got-
some more.
gotta give us
I'm
more
gonna be silly here. I'm gonna be
I
silly.
had a feeling that's what.
Here we go, here we go. So this one, when you have your meeting coming up here this week, your staff meeting, your
Okay.
In,
Give us
in 30 minutes.
In 35 minutes.
it's very simple. A box of biscuits, a box of mixed biscuits, and a biscuit mixer. Let's say it together.
I can't even.
Ready? A box
Box
of
of
biscuits,
biscuits.
a box of mixed biscuits, and a biscuit mixer. So you can roll it off a box of biscuits, a box of mixed biscuits, and a biscuit mixer. Just try to say that really quick.
A biscuit, a
Box of biscuits, a
and
box of
and a
mixed
big
biscuits,
something mixer.
What's your
and a
point?
biscuit mixer.
Diction, a box of bix, a box, never mind.
No, you can't even say it.
No, a box of biscuits, a box of mixed biscuits, and a biscuit mixer.
What's your point you're driving? to?
Diction, nothing. No, no.
Oh, okay.
I told you I was being silly. I showed us.
You are. All right, thanks, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, commissioners.
Okay. All right, we've got 5 minutes, Harv, for the
Thanks,
next one.
Is this your pad right here? No, it's Sean's. Nope. It's Sean's.
He's coming back, so he's left it.
Maybe we'll get started a little early. Where are we again? We're just right here, aren't we?
Yep, 3:30.
I motion, because we're gonna go to 3:30. Nordic Valley.
Yeah, let's just wait.
We'll just
They'll be
wait.
walking in. 3 minutes, 2.5. So, I gotta buy tickets for,
The rodeo?
I bought them, $700
For the rodeo?
for 31 of us.
Good for you.
The other tickets I bought were,
Judas, that's almost $50 a piece.
no. It was.
30 of you.
19. So about 20, 30, yeah, about $20 a piece. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that'd be right. Okay,
so I thought Gage would have wanted to bend in there for this.
I would have too.
Nordic Valley. Nordic Village, form-based village zoning. Is this a change or something different?
No, I think we're just getting an update and planners will talk through this with us.
Okay. So how you doing, Sean?
Doing well.
Good?
Yeah. How about you?
Good. So Sharon Bolos. Looks like she's gonna be the one. I mean, she's still got a independent run against, right? Who's that?
Yeah, I don't know what the affiliation is there.
Who is it?
I'm not sure who it is.
I don't remember now. I think they independent. So she does have to run a race. She can't just coast. But odds are it'll be her. So when we get into the budget in the fall, or October.
September.
Yeah, well, it's the end of September. I anticipated that I would invite her to come Give her that courtesy like we did Gage.
Like James did for Gage. I think it's.
Is that okay with you?
Oh, it's fine with. me.
Just so we've got it.
How are you?
Laurent, how you doing, bud? Good seeing you. Scott, how are you? Oh, geez, look who's here.
I know, right?
you doing?
I'm good.
Hey,
How are you? Give me my elbow. Set my hand, sorry.
How you doing? I'm good. Good.
Well, Rhonda, good to see you.
Good to see you guys.
I don't need to hug from you, but thanks.
You don't need it.
You sit right there.
Oh, boy, would I.
Would
Would I?
Corlin, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
You know, yeah, we're gonna leave some.
See space for Scott.
My kids sent me last week, a portable like this, he sent me a note that a guy just got his new Ford Lightning.
Oh. That's that electric truck?
Yours on the way?
And it's on eBay, and opening bid was, he had to give between 70 and 80. Opening bid was 109, and he's got, it's been climbing. Buy it now is 125.
Well, that's
Really?
nice.
Wow, crazy.
He paid how much?
He had to pay between 70 and 80. It's a Lariat, it's not a, that's all you can get right
And he's selling it.
now. And he'll sell it. The starting bid was 109 and he's already got it.
50, 60 grand.
We'll make, yeah, 40. 50, could be,
He only had to put down a deposit of what, $500 to
something
order it?
like that.
So I was listening to Joe the other day and they said those Ford Broncos right now are, their entire capacity of production for 13 months is sold out.
Wow.
You can buy it today and you can't get it for 13 months. They're all sold. That's hard to believe. They are. That's turned out, that reintroduction, very seldom do you get a reintroduction that's as cool as the original and has that same mystique and everything. They stayed pretty close to it. They've done a heck of a job.
They really did. They really did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful.
Scott, you shut that door. All right, we welcome you guys here. So this is our 3:30 meeting. And it's regarding Nordic Village, form-based village zoning. And Scott Perks and our planning department's here. Scott, you can take this over?
Yeah, I'll take it.
You gonna show any maps?
And Laurent and Rhonda Kippen, they're with us from Nordic, and we welcome you.
I believe Eric, Langard is on Zoom.
Yeah, we see Eric on there. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, normally we don't have that much attendance, because you can see today, the board's full, so we've got a lot of people online. I don't know if it's because we've had a lot all day here, so,
Yeah, I saw you had a village.
yeah, we did, so it's been big.
Yeah.
All right, Scott, go ahead.
Okay, commissioners, what we're looking at here is the text amendment with the intent to create a Nordic village area within the form-based village code. You may recall, we already passed this code for the creation of the Newtown and Old Town Eden village areas. This proposed amendment would create this Nordic village area. What you have before you is what we're calling the street regulating plan for this Nordic village. We have one similar in Newtown and Old Town Eden. But the proposed amendments are to allow for some mixed use commercial in the village core, some multifamily, and then various types of residential that emanate out from that core area. This is an applicant-driven request with Nordic requesting these changes to create this village area. And you can see on this particular plan, we've superimposed their proposed plan, which has helped guide the discussion and the creation of this village. But what we're looking to do, we do have a positive recommendation on the text amendment portion, which I can get you a copy of that here in a second from.
So when you say that kind of stuff, you gotta tell us who from. The positive recommendation from who?
The Ogden Valley Planning Commission.
Okay, very good.
Yep. So there's two requests as part of this project. There's a text amendment and then there's a rezone. We're moving forward on the text amendment as this first component to create the regulatory framework within which the rezone can then reside. So that's what we're looking at here at this moment is the text amendment. Okay.
There's a couple different colors on the map here, indicating what type of street type we're looking at. This is a form-based zoning ordinance, looking at form more so over use, but we also have uses in the table in the text itself. Following the positive recommendation from the Planning Commission, we're looking to move forward to bring this to your agenda for potential hearing and action.
Mr. Perks, would it be possible for you to overlay this on the screen so that those online could have the benefit of viewing what we're seeing here?
Absolutely, it should be coming up here. Okay, it's a little bit small. We can zoom in to various areas as desired, but that is the.
Well, I think you ought to zoom in to the center of it, because of course, that's where most of the question is.
Get oriented, they can see where the north is and they can see where the hill is and it's okay, let it get there.
It is facing
Yeah,
north.
now
so-
going down a little.
And it's a large document, so it'll take it a second to scroll here, but.
You're getting there, thanks.
A little more. Little more, little more, little more, little more. There.
There we go.
Okay, now, the question I have, Scott,
Mhm.
is you show that medium lot residential, which is all of Viking Drive.
That's correct, yep.
So Viking Drive, well, and Nordic Valley Way, those are pretty much established and built today.
That's correct.
So if you go in there and make that a medium lot, which is as low as 8,000, many of those lots will be able to be divided, and you are now conveying additional rights to these people they haven't had in the past.
It would allow them to rezone if they transfer more density onto their property in the future.
Why would they need to transfer density if they can rezone?
So this comes back to the general plan and its desire to create village areas and to transfer density into the villages at a rate where we can reduce it from the valley floor. So the density from the valley floor is, we want to try to put it into these village areas as much as we can and have cluster style development. What this particular plan does is it sets a future potential build out of the Nordic area. But the only way that we can get to these densities is by transferring the density into the village area from the valley floor. So unless they have, multiple lots where they could transfer to
Oh,
themselves.
just went right by me again.
Sure.
The only way we can get to this is to transfer density from the valley floor.
Correct.
So the density today doesn't exist on the valley floor, it's on the hillside.
There is for this particular request, yes. So if.
Oh,
you-
yeah, so in this, on this particular request, we do have density on the hillside that is being transferred down.
Down into the core, that's right.
But that's onto his development, that isn't onto Viking Drive.
That's right. That is absolutely right. So the owners on Viking Drive are not a part of this request.
Right.
If they wanted in some point in the future to rezone to this medium lot residential, they would have to go secure those rights and transfer them onto their property first.
Scott, I think the question that Commissioner Jenkins is asking is, if you're gonna essentially upzone, aren't you already giving them the rights through the zoning by upzoning?
If it was an
Charlie,
upzone,
yeah, that, you were saying what I'm thinking, Charlie.
So the difference is we created the village zone with TDRs being the execution tool. So if it's gonna upzone, yeah, you.
These are the very people who've been fighting him and giving him a hard time, and you're blessing them with density.
But in order to realize that density, the transfer would have to happen. So even though we're
So
saying.
they have to buy it.
Yeah, even though we're saying you can get up to 4 units per acre in this area, if they've got one home on it, they've got to buy 3 in order to get 4.
They don't, whatever happens here, doesn't mean they automatically get 3.
Right, correct. They've got to go buy them, but once they buy them and they've rezoned through your process, then they.
Now it makes a little more sense.
right? and the general plan calls for that density to come from the valley floor to these village areas.
Right.
That's right. So this does not upzone anybody.
So if a guy's got a house on 6 acres,
Mhm.
he's got 1 extra transfer development right.
On how, what was the
He's got 1 house on 6 acres. And so he has one extra transferable development, right?
Mhm.
So he could sell that, which means that his house on 6 acres could never be, you couldn't add another dwelling forever and ever. And he could sell that right to one of those people who lived on Viking Drive.
That's right.
Right.
Mhm.
And they could subdivide their 1 acre into 2.5 acres.
Yeah.
Or John Lewis, who just bought 40 some odd from that guy on, he might sell some of those to you.
Maybe.
Well, but he
Yeah.
has them.
Yeah, he has them.
Okay,
Wherever the extra rights are, whoever has an extra right could sell to somebody who lives in this village
Right.
area. And they
But what
could
that
redevelop
does is
it.
it protects, so that let's go back to the 6 acre guy.
Mhm.
The guy on 6 acres. That means that's gonna keep a lot of open space around his one home.
That's right.
And his neighbor could do the same, who's on 6 acres. Or if his neighbor's got 9 acres, he could have 2 development rights, but he could sell those 2 development rights off in one house on 9 acres. And that's the way it'd be forever and ever.
That's right.
We know people who bought 2 lots right next to each other just to protect their view. So that extra lot, the one next door, they could sell the development right off of that and restrict the buildability of it.
And eventually those development rights, we'll start to see that more and more as we establish value, what those values are. Right? It ends up being a commodity.
That's right. Yep. Now, in the case of Nordic, you'll see there's a big green spot on the hillside here. This is land that is part of what they're looking to preserve and
Who's they?
transfer. The Nordic folks that are
Okay.
behind this.
They own
application.
that property.
They do. So they're wanting to take the development rights off of this hillside here and cluster them down in the core.
right. We're aware of that.
That's the idea
Agree with
here.
it.
Right.
And we've been talking about transfers from the valley floor into places, and now we're talking about a hillside, just to make sure it's clear for anyone who hears us. This is still considered the valley floor for purposes of TDRs. The general plan already identifies this particular hillside as part of the valley floor.
That's right. Yep. So now in order to create this framework, this particular small area plan or street regulating plan is being injected into the form-based village zoning ordinance. And this is a guiding document for any future land use decision.
Let me back you up just a little, sorry, before we go.
Yeah.
So the general plan, this was the general plan that was adopted in 2017,
16.
My bad. So this was the general plan, and this is the plan, as I remember, that was put forward by many of the people up there. This is what they wanted up there. This was the plan that I remember most people said, this is what we want to have happen. And that general plan says, we're going to create village areas. And Nordic is one of those village areas.
It is.
Another village area was Newtown Eden.
Newtown.
Another village area was Old
Town.
Town Eden. Another village area was Huntsville. And another village area was over there, Old Snow Basin Road. Okay, those were the areas described in the 2016 general plan that the people wanted up there.
That's right. They wanted to cluster, development in those areas.
They wanted to take the density off all the hill and put them in clustered areas.
So they wanted to preserve the hillside and the valley floor.
Okay.
Yep.
So now we're 6 years later, we're just exacting out what they wanted. Okay, got it. Let's
Implementation
keep
of the
going.
plan. Yep.
Okay,
Yep. So we have the form-based village zoning ordinance. It's been adopted. We are needing to amend it to add this plan into that document, but also making some adjustments to also address uses, architectural standards for this Nordic area. And if you look in there, the architectural theme that they're wanting to go with is mountain modern, classical interpretation of mountain modern is how we've termed it. So there's a coordinated design style that they're looking to instigate in this area and then have as the area builds out. So when you look in the text amendment, there are some architectural, call outs in there. There are a few things that we would like to chat about prior to this being on your agenda next Tuesday. Like I had mentioned, we do have a positive recommendation from the Planning Commission, but we would also like to add a couple of items onto this text amendment to facilitate some development in the area. At the north side of this proposal, the applicant is calling these the chalets, correct? And we see that.
So you're talking about the small piece up the hill,
That's correct.
okay?
Yeah, we've got a little cluster. We're calling these the chalets. That is at the moment inaccessible. It won't come to fruition until access comes more to this area. Right here.
But they're showing the road going up to it.
Yep, all these dash lines
Got
are
it.
potential future roads, right?
Mhm.
Now, under the current subdivision ordinance, we limit the number of homes that can be at the end of it or on a dead end road to 14 homes and no more. We've been working with the planning commission over the last couple of years on some language that would potentially allow for additional homes on a dead end road, but only if there's emergency egress that is provided in the event of an emergency. We have some language that has been vetted through the planning commission. We have a recommendation from them on that we'd like to add on to this potential text amendment in order to allow for additional homes at the end of a dead end road to occur. That makes sense? So what we're looking at is we've got some proposed development in this area that would potentially bring this street, I think it's 3200 east from the intersection of 3350 north south and connect this road to this point. Just a cluster style subdivision that has been proposed. If that subdivision were to be installed, we would have a single road providing access to this point stubbed onto the property. But we would not have a secondary egress to allow for additional homes to be built. So what this language does, if adopted, would allow for up to 30 homes from this point where it becomes terminal to this point where they could potentially develop, but only in the case of there being a secondary egress built to an emergency standard. So that could be this road here. If they were to build an emergency egress here, it could be a future road that then stubs back out to the rest of the public right-of-way system. But this particular area could not come to fruition until we had secondary egress provided to it under our current language. So when you see the text amendment that's proposed, you'll see that there's language to address that limitation. Have questions on that?
Well, what does the language do?
So it would allow for up to 30 homes.
Okay, so it doubles it.
But it's only on a street type that is planned to extend and connect to the right-of-way system. So it can't be a road that is intended to be terminal indefinitely.
And you're saying homes, not apartments or townhouses, you're saying homes.
We should say dwelling units because everybody can have a home and an accessory dwelling unit under our current ordinance. So 30 dwelling units would be allowed on this temporarily terminal street.
Okay.
Okay. But this terminal street would have to be planned to connect into the rest of the right-of-way system. And we could not issue any building permits over 14 unless there's that emergency egress that is made.
By the way, this language is the same language we need to get that project on the west side of the Weaver River, south side of the tracks, off the ground as well, because they need that emergency egress. And technically, our code doesn't.
Oh, sure.
Start building out there.
South side of the tracks.
This isn't the first time we've seen this issue. We've been working on a solution for the past couple of years, but with this particular project, if we were not to address it, then this proposed density here really couldn't come to fruition without a full road being connected from the onset.
Weaver Fire can give us a hard time about this.
I think that they're happy to see something like this because it means that temporary roads are going in. Most of those temporary roads will turn into future roads as more development lines them. And it gives the fire guys a second way in and out.
Yeah.
As opposed to just dead ends.
Makes it safer.
Yep. Any other questions on that access and the language that we're looking at for that access component?
Nope.
Okay.
Good point.
Now, one thing that you'll see if you're looking carefully, the planning commission's recommendation included a recommendation to not require an architect to design the buildings in these village areas. They wanted to allow for, a little bit more, free design by anybody who's submitting an application for development in a village area. Planning staff somewhat disagree. We'd like to make sure that there's a design that is put together by a licensed architect, at least on the larger buildings. The single family homes, we think perhaps we don't need to have. an
For most
architect.
people who are building a village area like this, they want everything to conform.
That's right.
Isn't that the way you look at that, Laurent? You'd like it to all look basically the same.
Right.
It would not look the same, but it would use the same finishing, the same type of architecture, but it may, it may be a different color eventually, or different.
Oh, well, colors, I don't care about colors, but.
You know what?
It's coordinated.
There is a coordination, there is a coherence.
Yeah, I think the point of why we would like to still see an architectural requirement, architect requirement in there is to protect Laurent and anyone else who has invested in these communities with a particular design motif, protect those communities.
Well, it protects the people who are already there.
Yeah, that's right.
So if someone wants to put a big cube, concrete cube, it may not work, that's what we want to.
Yeah.
Understood, sure.
You give us something on this a while back, Charlie. I guess I've thrown it away.
I've got an extra copy and it's on here. This is the long version of the text amendment. If you'd like to get a little bit more specific.
Yeah,
on
that's
this.
right.
Thank you.
Yep.
I think I have a copy of this.
Yeah, I had to too, someone see it, but those are the kind of things they were talking about.
Those are nice.
Yeah. And I'm actually okay with this. Here, you can take that back up.
Speaking of those images, commissioners, you saw a couple of them were actually sketched out. We have full intention of taking the pictures and turning them into sketches. There's some issues with putting actual photography in code.
Well, sure, but in,
Sometimes pictures tell more words than we need for them to tell.
sure it does.
So you'll see still in the proposal next week when it comes to the images, but we'll sketch them out before we talk about it.
Drive it right there. Yeah. What it does is it lets you know the general description of what you want this stuff to look like to create the village. And I'm okay with that. Somebody who's spending this much money in an area wants to hold things as close as they can to looking the same, and it creates. I'm not sure what it creates. Everybody has a different view of what it creates, but it does create something.
Consistency.
Huh?
Consistency.
Yeah.
Any other questions on the architecture of requiring an architect to design some of these buildings? Okay. The last item I wanted to bring to your attention that slightly differs from what the planning commission's recommendation included was the moderate income housing element. As you may know, the state has started to crack down a little bit more on planning for moderate income housing as we go through development. What we're working on now and will shortly be before you before the October 1st deadline is a requirement for us to update our moderate income housing element in our general plans. One thing that the state is looking at is potentially requiring some sort of a 10% moderate income housing component of development. It's one of many strategies that they've outlined in a bill that we need to be compliant with. 10% of the entitlements on a property or a fee in lieu of some sort. That's a strategy that's been handed down by the state, and we're looking at the potential inclusion.
Is that in code?
It is not yet in
Yeah,
our
so
code.
today it's not in, is it in their code?
It's a state strategy that we can use to try to.
I know a
close the
strategy. Is it in code?
They do not say we have to do this.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Staff's recommendation on this is you'll read in the code is to require 10% affordable housing in the village area or a fee in lieu of some sort. This is something that is needed. Obviously, the housing issue is not going away and it's been more of an issue over time. What we're asking for in this text, and I should be clear, this is staff's recommendation. This is not the applicant's request.
Right.
But this is something as a recommendation that staff has as we look at all of the village areas, not just the Nordic, but all the village areas as development occurs, that this is a good place to perhaps capture some of that moderate income housing. It's close to services, it's close to grocery and all sorts of things that somebody might need as far as living in these types of units.
It's a timely conversation because the state code did change this last year to require us to beef up our, not just planning efforts for moderate income housing, our implementation and execution efforts. So this is helpful.
Yeah. It's a
Right to there, they're right to there, but they haven't actually hit yet. They haven't actually said this will happen.
They haven't said that here are the consequences if you want.
That's right.
we're getting closer, and this is an opportunity.
So Laurent, are you planning on putting any workforce housing in this area?
Well, when we heard the recommendation from the Open Valley Planning Commission, at first we were a little bit concerned, but 5% seems to be reasonable. 10% seems a lot, honestly. When I look at the numbers and you know, the people that are going to work there, this is going to be mostly for, I would say, if we have hospitality employees, because the most of the people that are working on the ski resort, they mostly live in the valley or, you know, not far from that. So that mostly will be used by people who will work for eventually, you know, condo apartments, condo hotels, or things like that. But I think the number, if we do 10%, it's huge. 50
is a lot.
It's a lot of it. Even 25 is a lot.
You know, this makes sense if you're doing housing development, but this is a resort.
It is, and it will generate a lot of employees. I should clarify, the Planning Commission's recommendation was to allow up to 5% of their units to be built as moderate income housing without using any of their entitled residential rights.
That makes more sense.
So that was the recommendation, and they said not to exceed 5%. Allow them to build if they'd like, but not any more than 25 units or 5% of what their entitlements would be. What we're looking at, if we really want to be aggressive.
What is their entitlements?
So the entitlements is a discussion we can have as part of the rezone. We think it's somewhere between 488 and 525 as calculated.
I was, okay, go ahead. 48 and 525.
Yep. So if we just say somewhere in the middle, 500 units, 5% of that is 25 moderate income housing units. 10% would be 50. So somewhere in that range.
Okay, so with that 25% or that 5%, was 25 units, would they have to be there? Could he buy a little piece of property over there and build 25 units on it?
The way that it's written says it's on site. But you know, that's something we can look at if we want to have them close to their employment center. You know, there's not a lot of opportunities.
Well, I'm just putting myself in his position.
Sure.
I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I'm building a resort. And so you're right, I want to make sure. And so what you traditionally do, you hide those units, you know, you put
Blend
them
them in.
Yeah, you put them in areas that you can't see very well, or you put them immediately adjacent to it. But everything on the main streets, the main areas, you want to look nice, resorty.
Yep.
And so that's kind of what you do, right?
That's right. So to clarify what staff is recommending as opposed to what the Planning Commission is recommending, staff is recommending we allow for up to 10% on site, but don't require them to dip into their entitled residential rights in order to build those units. So financially speaking, they would have to find a place to put them in, you know, and land is a premium where is if it were on site. But the recommendation would be to allow them to build those units without dipping into their other entitled density to do so.
Yeah, but up to 10%, you just give him 50 extra units.
That's right. It is quite a few units. And as far as moderate income housing is concerned, we've seen this in a lot of mountain towns where they get to a point where it's difficult to find where and how to fit these things in. In the future, you might be kicking ourselves saying, well, it'd be nice to go back and maybe find some more units to put in. So that's the difference between what maybe they're looking for and being aggressive on this.
So that's one of the reasons why we said, you know, we think that this shouldn't count against their density because honestly, to build this, they're not going to return a profit on it. It's gonna be a zero sum game.
Well, you just made a huge assumption there. You're in a resort area. Everything's profitable in a resort area.
To build moderate income
Moderate
housing,
housing.
Well,
restricted to 80% of the county's AMI. Hard to sell that.
well, you assume that you're gonna have those people working on the hill or in the area,
Mhm.
right? That's the
That's the hope,
assumption,
yeah.
right? So that's gotta be profitable, even if it's just at a break even.
You mean the real estate value, or what do you mean?
I'm talking about the physical operation of the apartment or whatever this ends up being.
There will be money that comes in. Yes, will it bring them to break even? I don't know. We've already given up one moderate income restriction that we had out west because the landowner and developer came in and said, we can't afford to build a house that size for under the construction costs of today. And so let alone buy the land and then, and so they'd be upside down immediately.
That's where we're at.
We were concerned about that being upside down. And
Well, yeah,
having
but
that-
so what you're coming to us with, and we struggle with this.
Mhm.
You sent us a letter saying that you believed you had 525. You wanted us to sign that and send it back. And we never did, you notice, none of us. So we didn't agree on that number. They come in at 488 and said, well, this is what we believe. We thought that was too low. So we've actually had this discussion. And we think 500 is the approximate number. We think that we all felt pretty good about that. Well, now you're coming in and you're saying, well, we think it's really 550 because we want to give them 50 moderate income units. And you're going to force him to build them at a loss?
And we don't have to do that. We're just recommending, you've got resort workers, they're gonna be coming over the divide, or they're gonna be going up the canyon to get there. Because otherwise, there's nothing affordable up there. Unless we can find it something else, somewhere else up in the valley to deed restrict.
Let me, I
struggle with this.
Okay, can I put a pause in this?
Sure.
How many acres do you have total? How many acres is this project?
Total, we have about 513, 510.
I think we were at about 509 on that first survey. Yep. And of that, we're restricting an awful lot of it to open spaces, you know, we're condensing it down into village core. So the actual developable acreage where we're gonna put the density is much less than 509.
So really, I'm gonna do some simple math here. At the beginning, if he had 509.
It's not simple.
Huh?
It's not simple. They've got a lot of different zones.
Okay, but listen. But I've got a simple mind, so I've got to stay there. So thank you. Okay, so at 509, if we divide that by 3 acres, that's 170. That's 170 at 3 acres, you know. But some of it's not buildable up in there, and he can have something because of the density up there, and because this is a village area, he can have different density up there. So isn't he really allowed somewhere at these numbers, somewhere around 700 and something? So we've already taken some of that away, correct?
No, we did the math in accordance with existing zoning. So why I say it's not that simple, they've got some CBR1, which is 20 units the acre. They've got some
That's what, okay.
FR3 at about 20 units the acre. They've got some open space, 0 units the acre. And so when we drew those polygons and found out how many acres were inside of those specific polygons, and we aired any rounding in favor of the applicant on that, we found 488 units.
So this really accounts for the hillsides and unbuildable areas.
We didn't count anything unbuildable on that property because we don't think anything is unbuildable. It's just costly to build.
Okay.
Except the one that is.
Except for the O1, that's right.
The O1 you didn't count.
There is 113 acres that are not included.
Oh, another 113 on top of that?
No.
Yeah, I get it.
Including the 500, but they're not buildable.
Okay.
What's the O1?
The open space, yeah.
So there's O1 zone up there. There's also a 2008 ordinance that created an O1 easement. It was executed poorly. We're not entirely sure how it's supposed to work, but we do know that it moved units off of the mountainside over to the FR3 where their chalets are gonna go. About 16 units from
Hey, hold on, you never answered what an O1 is.
open
Open
space.
space.
I'm sorry.
Open
space.
I'm sorry.
Just open
Different,
space,
yeah.
Okay, don't carry any more than that.
Okay.
That's where the discrepancy between the calculations is coming in. Is there nowhere in the document does it say 16 units? They're relying on a depiction that has drawings and that to say for the 16 units. We've calculated per the zone, which is the 20 units per acre in the FR3 zone up there.
That's not quite right. So it does say 16 units. What it doesn't say is that all of the other acreage that they have in the FR3 zone doesn't count.
Right.
So if the interpretation I think Laurent and team wants to make is, well, there you've got 4 acres in the FR3 zone, therefore 4 acres divided by 20 units of the acre, that gives them a lot more units there.
It should be 80 something.
80,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and so
So
that-
what-
Kind of what I'm, that's what I was.
yeah, so that's
what's
where the discrepancy.
bad
between
about
our
that
count and their
statement?
count is.
We're a little concerned about it just from a public perspective, because in 2008, the document only created 16. It didn't create 80. And so
Oh.
even though it was 4 acres, the applicant at that time came in with a master plan for 16 condominium units. The only zone that we have that would allow that is the FR3 zone. And so the property happened to be 4 acres. We gave them 16 units.
They
So
did say it was limited.
think,
to 16.
think the basin development, similar to that,
Yeah.
where they could have gotten a lot more, but
But
they
they
got
could have
10.
applied for 80 at that time, is
Yeah.
what you're saying.
We would, the commission wouldn't have given them that many
Okay.
acres.
But yeah.
Yeah, but the zone would have
So,
allowed us.
so they're saying, is it the zone or did they give them 16?
Right.
Right.
That's the
Yeah,
debate.
so are we wiping out the old
Yeah,
that?
or are you
that
taking
we're kind of
64
are-
away?
Yeah, because half of the legal description, half of the legal interpretation of this attachment has been said, no, it's null and void. But then the other half of this attachment said, yeah, we're sticking to this. And so we don't know how to go off of this attachment that says 16. And so,
Right.
you know, they're saying access isn't really, we're not saying, yes, you can have access right here where it says you can have access, but we're saying that you can only have 16. But in the actual development agreement document, nowhere does it say you're bound to only 16 units. So there's nothing in there that leads us to believe that you couldn't come back in the future and ask for an additional 16 units or, you know, and get you to
Or
that
32,
maximum.
or-
So we're just going off of the zone.
So we told them that, you know, pitch it to you guys and see how you think. We're not gonna say one way or the other on this. We know the general plan says don't give any bonus density, but if this isn't bonus, if you don't think it's a bonus. then-
Well, there was, I talked to some residents months and months ago, and I think the original density plan was for 700 and something units.
That was. in the
700 and what was it? 700 and what?
Like 22 or something like
Yeah.
that.
So we've gone from my point is from the discussion from there.
Yes.
This is where all this I wanted to get to, from the discussion from there, 722, to the discussion today, which is 488 to 525. There's already been a fairly hefty concession made on the number of units. As the dialogue's gone, so we've gone from 7 something down to 5. We'll say 7 to 5,
Yeah.
200.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big percent.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to just understand.
Well, I think the other thing, Commissioner Harvey, to bring up, and they may have already talked about, sorry, I was on a meeting with the state, is that I believe the Nordic group has agreed to some major infrastructure as part of that plan, i.e. 2 roundabouts and some infrastructure that would benefit that whole community up there, that for a typical developer, we would require that.
That's right. We've got a traffic study. So, sorry, Scotty.
No, you're okay. There's a study that was submitted as part of their rezone application that measures the number of trips that exist under today. And then they simulate what the number of trips would be in the future when and if, they do full build out. And it analyzes intersections and the levels of service. And that study did not come back with any major failures on intersections.
Meaning existing roadways.
Yeah.
is
We're adequate.
sufficient.
Now, they would obviously have more traffic on them, but they're designed to accommodate more traffic as they stand today. What we're looking at, and this will be part of additional discussion on the rezone application that will be coming before you in the next couple of weeks, is there are some requests that we are making as staff in a development agreement as part of the rezone. And they're not small asks. There's a lot of things in there that we're asking for that we believe are important to improve the public experience, but also to improve aesthetics and connectivity with trails. And there's a list of items that we're looking for. Now, obviously, those things have to be paid for somehow, somewhere. And one way to do so is through the entitlement process. What we're looking at with this particular request, focusing on the text amendment, is creating the regulatory framework within which a Nordic village could be built to a certain design standard, and also looking at the streets and what types of uses would be in various areas. As we get into the zoning discussion, that's when we'll talk a little bit more about the entitlements. What is the right number? What are the improvements we're asking for in the form of the development agreement? And that's another discussion we need to have. What will be on your agenda next Tuesday is simply the text amendment to create that framework within which the rezone could potentially occur.
Yeah, we'll be back to talk about units and stuff like that. Yeah.
In more detail. Yep.
So when you say the text amendment to create what?
The regulatory framework. So it creates that section in this code, the form-based code for the Nordic village to occur. Right now, the code is only designed for Newtown, Old Town Eden. We had the intentions of creating this Nordic village at some point, but with the applicant requesting it, it pushed that timeline up. That naturally would have happened over time.
No, we don't have a problem with that.
So really what we're saying is the general plan called for this to be a resort area back in 2016.
2016.
So what we're doing with this is not talking about density. All we're talking about is we're going to follow the general plan, which at that general plan mandated that this be a resort area. Old Town, New Town, and Nordic. Is that correct?
In addition to others.
In addition, yeah, obviously Powder Mountain and Snow Basin, et cetera.
Yep.
So I just want to be clear that all we're doing is, if we approve this, is approving what was in the general plan put forth by members of the community in 2016.
Right.
Am I correct in saying that?
If Laurent had never come in and asked the question, I suspect we would have brought something very similar.
Yeah.
To this.
I mean, even if this wasn't on the table, as we talk about resorts now, and we talk about the sewer and water infrastructure, this would have gone ahead regardless.
Yeah, the benefit of doing it with a developer, landowner, especially one with a lot of land, is we could see it through their eyes, through
Right.
practical application. And so
Sure.
when we're looking at internal roads, layout and whatnot, we could do it even better.
Yeah.
Because we've got the developer there with us, as opposed to just saying, all right, everybody here has to do it like this, and we
Yeah.
think we've got all the best ideas.
Always a better product when you can do that.
All right, well, I don't see any problems here. What you're talking about.
One thing on the street regulation plan. Right here, where we go from red to orange, we've got this building here that's supposed to be a hotel, which in the uses is considered a conditional use permit, where all the rest of our hotels, condotels are considered permitted. It seems a little unbalanced that just for one.
So you'd
structure,
like to extend that red up to
we
that?
take that red down to there, or in the uses, change the hotel to a P.
A what? Hotel to a what?
Hotel to a P for permitted
Oh.
instead of conditional. Because nowhere else on here is this dark orange that would be impacting.
I don't have a problem with that.
And so, but it just seems that for one unit, we'd have to go through conditional use permit
Yeah,
process. When
no.
everything else on the site is considered permitted, it seems kind of useless.
You're right, I agree with that,
to
Rhonda.
add an additional
Makes
step.
no sense not to
So,
do that.
anyway, is that okay?
Makes good sense.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
No, makes sense to me. All right, commissioners, any other questions? I don't have any either, so I think you're done. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, we appreciate it today. Well, we've run over 15 minutes, but we've got the next one up. Well, while we're getting everybody else in here,
Thanks. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, good seeing you. Rhonda, thanks.
Well, thank
Thanks,
you. You
Commissioner.
guys
You
have a
too,
great
Commissioner.
rest of your
Appreciate your
week.
time.
We'll see you next
You
week.
too.
Yeah, see you next week.
Yay.
I'm gonna hit Dad real quick here and then
Oh.
while we're gathering.
Wait, before you do that, Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
and as much as we're moving to a closed
Closed session.
session, our motion to go from a public meeting to a closed session.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, we're now in a closed session and of which, when we get done, we're not planning on taking any action, so we'll probably just adjourn and immediately be gone.
Yeah, no.